supposed to appear to give evidence tomorrow, but he's refused to accept the current arrangement by Parliament. Committee Secretary Bonani Ramano says Mokhotsi wants Parliament to foot the bill for his private security.
He says that he doesn't want to be protected by people that he doesn't know. He prefers to have
to foot the bill for his private security.
He says that he doesn't want to be protected by people that he doesn't know. He prefers to have his own people protecting him, and he was requesting that Parliament must fund that for a period of 7 days.
But Chairperson Soviet Lechanyane dismissed Mokhotsi's demands.
It is uncertain as to whether Mr. Mokhotsi is going to be here tomorrow, given the ridiculous demands that he is making to Parliament, that he has his own private security.
Mokhotsi will only be subpoenaed once the Speaker gives her approval, a decision expected to happen over the next few days. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, in the capital, commissioners at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry pointed out a contradiction in KwaZulu-Natal Hawks boss Lesetja Senona's testimony on his relationship with criminally accused tender tycoon Vusmusi Kat Matlala. He came under fire from the commissioners at the inquiry today over the questionable relationship. Senona attempted to convince the commission that he was unaware Matlala was being probed by the SIU and the Hawks in relation to the multi-billion rand Tembisa hospital scandal. Arun Singh has the details.
KZN Hawks boss Lesetja Senona attempted to argue that he began gradually distancing himself from controversial tender don Vusumuzi Kat Matlala after finding out he was involved then more than meets the eye regarding organized criminal activities. Senona confirmed to the Madlanga Commission that he sent Matlala a News 24 article on March 5th last year. The article outlined Matlala's proximity to the Tembisa Hospital Extraction Syndicate exposed by slain whistleblower Babito Diokaran. But a month later, Senona accompanied Matlala to meet with KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, despite claiming he was trying to cut ties with Matlala. Evidence leader Adila Hasim probed Senona on this point.
You were in a meeting in which you were trying to assist Mr. Matlala. That doesn't indicate somebody who is withdrawing. Wouldn't you agree?
Commissioner, I deny that I was assisting him.
Senona continues with his testimony. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Former Vice Chairperson of the Road Accident Fund, Nomonde Mabuya Molwele, says the board was not being hostile nor uncooperative in persisting with its legal battle over the accounting standard used by the fund. Mabuya Molwele says the former board was acting on the classification by the Prudential Authority and the National Treasury that the fund is a social benefit scheme. 4 former board members are appearing before Parliament's inquiry into maladministration at the RAF today and have told MPs that the spike in the fund's liabilities led it to consider an alternative accounting practice designed for such schemes. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
An occupational health specialist by profession, former Deputy Chairperson Nomonde Mabuya, says the RAF was taking its lead from classifications made by key institutions such as Stats SA and the International Monetary Fund, when it also considered legal advice to switch accounting standards, which the Auditor General has not approved of.
So we were not recalcitrant for the sake of being it. But the reality of the matter is the legal advice supported the fact that let's appeal, we have a right to appeal, and this is a technical matter. Let the courts engage.
Former head of the Audit Committee, Moses Nyama, has backed her up, saying the shift was a carefully considered move.
Chair, I don't think it was a very simple decision. I think even within the audit committee and the working committee, there was quite a lot of debate around the timing of the recognition and so forth, because it did have an impact on the liability.
Testimony before the inquiry continues. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Police are investigating procurement irregularities allegedly involving Johannesburg Social Housing Company acting CEO Themba Matibe. Matibe was arrested at his home on Monday during an operation conducted by the police's Special Task Force and Cold Case Unit. A substantial amount of cash was allegedly found in his possession at the time of his arrest. He appeared in the Alexandra Magistrates Court today, where he faced money laundering charges. Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate.
Following an extensive investigation into allegations of procurement irregularities at the Johannesburg Social Housing Company, the SAPS Cold Case Unit and Special Task Force effected an arrest on a charge of money laundering after the CEO was found with a substantial amount of money at his home. The team was acting on a J51 search and seizure warrant where the accused's home and offices were raided.
Matibe was released from custody today on 50,000 rand bail. And we move to the latest now, coming from online giant Amazon, which has announced today that it is cutting 16,000 jobs globally as part of a restructuring announced last year. This is the second major round of layoffs at the company in 3 months. Tech giants, including Amazon, Facebook parent Meta Platforms, and Microsoft, had sharply ramped up hiring during the COVID-19 pandemic demand surge and have lately been restructuring their workforce. Amazon has also been investing in robotics at its warehouses to speed up packaging and deliveries for its e-commerce segment to reduce the reliance on human labor and cutting costs. According to reports, the company will offer US-based employees 90 days to search for a new role internally, as well as severance and other transition support. Gold's trading at $5,283.22 an ounce. The rand's at 15.88 to the dollar, at 21.89 to the pound, at 19.02 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.75 a barrel.
Traffic lights out of order in Boysens at Lipperfield Drive and Boysens Road. There's also faulty traffic lights in Marlborough at Marlborough Drive and the N3 North, as well as in Polshof at Witkoppen and Main Road.
In your sport, Novak Djokovic gets lucky as he sets up Jannik Sinner's semi-final showdown at the Australian Open. George Linder needs consistency to make T20 World Cup impact. And Mamelodi Sundowns strike late to extend their lead at the top of the Betway Premiership standings.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in Gauteng this afternoon with isolated showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 28 and 31 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The police's ad hoc committee has resolved to subpoena Brown Mokgotsi to force him to appear, calling his list of security demands ridiculous.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Get your brain in the game and win big on the brain of 702. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app. DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
.702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 10 minutes past 3 on Wednesday, the 28th of January. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. How can we sustain our current health system, never mind build a basis for a national health insurance, if increasing numbers of doctors and nurses are looking for opportunities abroad? The latest numbers in this regard are troubling. More on that after 4. In other stories, government has spoken about increasing tariffs on Indian and Chinese cars to protect our local industry. But is this now too little too late? Is it even doable? Given the way that tariffs on some things are always bound up in larger trade agreements that govern tariffs on other things. More on that after 5. KZN Hawkshead Major General Lisicha Sinona, you heard a moment ago, remains in the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today. Oren Singh remains fixed and focused on the questions he's being asked and the answers he's giving. Oren with us at 10 to 5. And as the prices of both gold and silver soar, investors and miners may be happy, but how is this affecting jewelers? Their input costs must be close to getting out of hand. We'll find out about that at 10 to 4. You may recall we promised you that interview yesterday. A couple of things got in the way. We'll talk about it today. On the markets, the surging gold price continues to drive things. The metal is up nearly $84 today, currently trading at $5,266.89 an ounce. Off the back of that, the oil share is up by 1,195 points. Resources index up by 4%. Gold shares are gleaming, unsurprisingly. Goldfields up by 8%, Harmony by 7%, Anglo Gold is up by 5.3%. On the downside, Sappi is off by 3.8%, Alphaman has given up 3.7%, and Vodacom is down by 3.3%. Rand strong today, trading at 15.88 to the dollar. That's a gain of 12 cents over the last 24 hours. Euro will cost you 19 Rand and 2 cents, 5 cents less than this time yesterday. Good news against the UK currency as well. 21 Rand 89 will get you a pound, our currency 8 cents stronger against sterling. Brent crude, though, up today. The oil price keeps going up and up, 24 cents, the latest gain. Currently trading at $66.86 a barrel. Stephen Criddis joining us with all the market news at 4:25. Sport with Tolakele Mganga. Maki Molapo, who you heard a moment ago, has the latest news headlines, and we've got Karabo Chali keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live, and if it's happening in 702 land, you'll hear it here first. But if there are stories that we either haven't covered yet or stories where we might be missing either a fact or an angle, please do get in touch with us. You can reach us either for WhatsApps, voice or text on 072 702 1702 or give us a ring if you want to chat. 011 883 0702. 702 Drive, it's 13 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So, we live in quite a low building. There's a basement, there's a couple of layers of parking, and there's the ground floor, obviously, and I think there are another 3 floors on top of that. Now, I only mention that because, you know, on a show, there's lots to talk about, lots to inquire about, lots to think about. But today we're talking about the fact that our rides in the lift are relatively short. But for people who live in much taller buildings, the question of what do you do in a lift? Do you chat? Who do you chat to? Do you chat to complete strangers? Or do you try and find that little spot in the kind of top right-hand corner where you can look, but you're not looking at anybody, no matter how crowded the lift is? Or do you stare with absolute fascination as if you're mesmerized by the fact that after the first floor, who'd have thought it is the second? Here comes the third. Are we awkward in lifts? Someone was telling me, Jonathan Fairbairn, good afternoon to you, I think it was you, Kabazela, saying that in the US, people chat in lifts.
Yeah, this was the thing. I don't know where this person lives, but they were quite taken aback by the fact that most people in the lifts, the elevators in the US talk.
Yes.
Like that's a thing. It's nothing foreign to them. And I was thinking, well, you know, back home when I've been in the lift, it's quite quiet, depending on who you were in the lift with. I mean, like today, in a very rare occasion, I actually took the lift 1 floor, he says, ashamedly.
Yes.
And I was talking to Ropfiwa, who produces the breakfast show. And her and I were chatting because we obviously striked up a conversation before the lift doors open. But generally, when I'm in a lift, it's like the most awkward silence with people. Like, people just don't know really what to do. Like you said, they'll either look up into the ceiling, watch the numbers tick, 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 or you know, whether you're going up or down. Maybe they're on their phones, but there's never a conversation in a lift, like with complete strangers. You know, say, hi, how are you? It's just you don't speak.
I wonder why we don't, because, I mean, the conversations are not going to be long, especially in a three-floor building. How about you, Karabo Charlie? Good afternoon to you, chatty in the lift.
I think I should move to America because I chat. I will greet you when I come into the lift, and I'll just look for something to say or talk about. Either I'll compliment you and say, wow, I like your T-shirt, and then they will strike up a conversation, or even just crack a joke or talk about the weather. But I just don't like the silence. It's so awkward and makes it very uncomfortable. Like you say, in our building, the trip is a bit too short.
Yes.
But then if I'm visiting a friend at a block of flats, I just talk to strangers, and I'll be like, good day. And when they leave, maybe it's their turn to leave, it's their floor, I'll be like, have a nice day, nice to chat with you, you know. And then next time I see them, then we like kind of familiar with each other.
Yeah.
I find it very awkward to be silent. And when a person walks into the lift and doesn't greet, I find that very offensive.
Okay, so and the one thing I'm realizing as well now is if I'm to get a compliment from you on my outfits, which I must admit have been a bit scarce, I must make sure I'm in the lift with you. It's, nice shirt. Thanks. Anyway, but it's an interesting point because, some people feel uncomfortable with the silence. Some people feel uncomfortable if you don't greet them. So how does it work with you? I do want to quickly mention this because I think one of my favorite ads in recent years was actually in a lift. And I can't remember the name of the character Vodacom created, but I think his name was George. And he was a guy who absolutely didn't get cell phone technology. And then step by step, he gets a bit more accomplished. And, his phone can even send an SMS, he points out. But the last one in the series, or certainly near the end of it, he's in the lift and there's a glamorous-looking woman next to him. And he's got his phone and he turns to her. And I wish, we were on TV here. Gives us like very pleased with himself look and he says, I'm just activating my blue teeth. And I don't know if you were involved in the making of that advert. I know it's a bit of a long shot, but maybe your agency was involved in it. But if you do have a thing to share about that ad, and setting it in a lift I thought was absolutely brilliant. Really, really good and funny and at the time very topical advertising because a whole new generation of people were coming into cell phones backwards. They're having to reverse engineer some of their tech ignorance and try and get with it a little more than they were. Karabo?
Yeah, because if you don't greet or talk, what if the lift gets stuck? Now it's even more awkward because you were not courteous to greet me, and now we're stuck together. Now we're like companions. We have to get through this thing together,
Yes.
So it's just always a good idea just to greet so that there's no further awkwardness.
Lift etiquette. How do you go about it? Give us a call. 011-883-0702, 19 past 3. How are we doing on the roads?
Well, at this stage, looking pretty good, John. Nothing really hectic to report on. However, it is peak hour traffic, so things are backing up and picking up on the roads at this stage. In Claremont, there's slow-moving traffic. This is on Bremer Street between the Dustport Tunnel and the R80. Also, slow-moving traffic. That's in the Kempton Park area, Bursley, on Morafontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi-Rivier Drive. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Rosebank, at Republic and Jan Smuts, in Marlborough at Marlborough Drive and the N3 North, as well as in Boysens at Klip-Rivier Drive and Boysens Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
Kick off to glory with Hollywood Bets and Asi Shege. Be in the game. Go full speed ahead with the epic competition. You stand to win a share of 4 million rand in cash and prizes, including an all-new Toyota Corolla Cross. Bet 10 rand or more on any soccer fixture or fixtures online or at your nearest branch. Live life in the fast lane. Bet now for your chance to score. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Watch dog, why is there a horse in your driveway?
You ride savvy. Why drive a Mustang when you can ride one?
What the missus say?
Well, she had a bit of a long face, but now she's stable.
If you need a backup plan, We Buy Cars can sort you out.
Nah, savvy. This thing is eco-chic.
Stop horsing around, cowboy. Rather get one of these from We Buy Cars.
What's the horsepower on that thing?
More than one, Dorf. More than one.
Don't be Dorf, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for adventure, geared for you.
Naked people are great dancers. Because naked people spend less time on insurance admin, they have more time to perfect their moves. Go to naked.insure now, get a car insurance quote in 90 seconds, and get naked. Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Innocent here from Kempton Park. Look, I don't want that awkward silence in the lift. I always want to make a conversation. I remember just yesterday, I complimented this other lady's hair. Your hair looks beautiful, And then, we had a conversation after that, even though it was a very short ride. But at least there was no silence.
Talking in the lift, do you? Give us a call on that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Let's focus our attention now on Cape Town. This, by the way, is not a Cape Town issue, but a national one. The reason we're focusing on Cape Town is because the problems, the protests around this have actually focused on the Houses of Parliament. So the issue at stake here is the film industry. You may not have heard, but there was an excellent conversation on 702 Afternoons with Jane Dutton. She was chatting to a number of people in the industry, including actors, representative and leader Jack Devnarain, about the fact that the industry is really getting strangled and choked. And at issue is the fact that there is a grant that is meant to be paid out to funding agencies involved, the National Economic Empowerment Fund, the Industrial Development Corporation, the DTIC, is also supposed to make contributions, and these grants appear to have been choked off in some way. So what are the people who are protesting saying? Let's go to our EWN colleague, Camray Clark, who is outside Parliament and has been chatting to people. Camray, very good afternoon to you. I understand that it's really been quite a while before anyone has actually been paid their grants. How far back are we talking about? Good afternoon.
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon. So film and television professionals gathered outside Parliament today, and they, as you said, are calling on government to reinstate the key production grant that hasn't been issued since early 2024. And the reason for that is because the department has stopped accepting applications as early as March 2024. Now, producers say they rely on loans from the IDC, as you said, and the NEF, and the grant is usually meant to repay those loans. But now producers are saying that the high interest rates given by the National Empowerment Fund and the Industrial Development Corporation actually skyrockets production costs to 5 times the original amount.
Goodness, I mean, that is an extreme measure. I understand that somebody put a number on what is already owed to production companies. Can you clarify that, Camray? Because you said at the start they're not accepting new applications. Are there applications that were, in the minds of the film people at least, successful, and therefore there's money that they expect that they're not getting?
Yes, it certainly seems that way. One of the representatives of the DTIC Portfolio Committee was present, and that was Toby Chance, the DA representative, and he confirmed to the protesters that more than 660 million rand is owed to production companies that, of course, hasn't been paid out.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Camray Clark, thank you very much. Keeping an eye on that story. Updates from Camray, I'm sure, throughout the news bulletins. We've got one coming up in about 5 minutes' time. It's 3:25. Just to say, by the way, if you work in the film industry, and that I don't assume that you need to be an actor. You might be a makeup artist. You might run a catering company that has done good business catering on set. There are set builders made up of carpenters, painters, and all sorts of people. It really is an industry that has the potential to employ an incredible diversity of people, but also spend money in other sectors. If there's a film taking place perhaps in the countryside, there are drivers that are hired, there are people who need to put up accommodation, be it in B&Bs or small hotels. I mean, the implications, I think, are vast, and they extend way beyond the peoples whose names you see brightly on the silver screen. So if this has touched your life in any way, please do get in touch. I believe there's a protest, by the way, outside the Department of Trade Industry and Commerce, and we'll follow that closely as it unfolds tomorrow. 3:26.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's stay with protests and discontent from people who feel there is a need now to step out and take this to the streets. This time it involves restaurants and catering. The Bargaining Council for the Restaurant catering and allied trades have been protesting outside a number of restaurants all over Gauteng, Bedfordview, Sandton, Alberton, Edenvale. What are their issues and how are their protests coming across? Jabulile Mbata, another member of the EWN team, is with us now. Jabulile, where have you been and what have you seen? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. So we started off in Bedford Square Centre, which is in Bedfordview, and the trade union members were protesting outside the Lupa restaurant. That's a well-known Italian restaurant. It was a bit chaotic because, as you can imagine, it's inside a shopping center. So, they arrived and they had their placards. They were just chanting, and some of the patrons, some of the customers actually ended up walking out because they didn't understand what was happening. But eventually, we had one of the managers of the restaurant come and try and hear what the trade union members were saying. And surprisingly, the manager said that, he has no knowledge of what's happening in the restaurant. He doesn't understand why, there's allegations of exploitation, of mistreatment of the employees, and allegations of non-compliance with the labor laws. So what he had said is that he would get the owner of the restaurant to maybe then have a meeting with the union members. Even with the media, we explained to him that we would like to give the owner of the restaurant an opportunity to account to these allegations because they are quite big, There were also allegations of the hiring of undocumented foreign nationals, and as I've said, flouting the laws, the labor laws. So we didn't get a chance to speak to the owner. We had been waiting for him to arrive, but we left our contact details so that, we could carry on with the story. And then we went to Edenvale at a restaurant called Fahrenheit, where again it's similar allegations. So the union members are saying that there is a hiring process that is not working for their members because even if you get a contract and it says to you you're gonna get paid minimum wage and you're gonna be treated right, that's not the reality on the ground for their workers. So they are saying, some of their members are getting paid as little as 2,000 rand a month, and the minimum wage is 6,000 rand. So those are just some of the complaints that were coming from the trade unions.
Thanks so much. Jabulile Mbata, witnessing the protests outside two restaurants, and this is taking place in other places as well. So the issues on the table appear to be failure to observe the minimum wage, depending too heavily on tips to actually make up the pay package and not putting enough themselves as owners. Also concerns about the hiring of undocumented foreign nationals, both in terms of joblessness in South Africa, but also perhaps perceived as a tool for keeping local wages down, creating a pool of willing people, some might say desperate, who are willing to work for terms less favorable. So if you're in the restaurant business, maybe you've got a point of view on this and do let us know. You may not want to mention the name of your establishment, which I think is fair enough, but please join the conversation. Obviously, we want to get the perspective from owners and investors in this part of our economy as well. 072 702 1702, 3:30. Quite extraordinary things really happening down in Parliament. ANC fixer Brown Mokgotsi is setting terms, to put it politely, in regard to his appearance before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee into police corruption. Maki Molapo has that story, a couple of other stories too. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. ANC fixer and alleged crime intelligence asset Brown Mokgotsi refuses to appear before Parliament's Police Ad Hoc Committee until his security demands are met. Mokgotsi has made several security demands that have been rejected by the committee, including his own private security to be paid for by Parliament for a week. The committee discussed the matter before it continued its public submissions from members of the public. Committee Secretary Bonani Ramaano detailed Mokgotsi's demands.
And the offer that was given was that he can come to Cape Town, and then as soon as he lands, there will be protection offered or escorts offered Mr. Mkhosi refused that offer. He says that he doesn't want to be protected by people that he doesn't know. He prefers to have his own people protecting him, and he was requesting that Parliament must fund that for a period of 7 days.
In Germiston, a group of protesting trade unions has clashed with security guards at the Lupa restaurant inside the Bedford Square Centre for marching against the exploitation of workers. The restaurant is accused of not complying with labour law regulations. The Food and Allied Workers Union, National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, and other unions are marching on behalf of its members. Jabuli Lembata has more.
The group of trade unions disrupted patrons who were enjoying their Italian cuisine this afternoon at the Lupa restaurant. Some customers walked out the establishment as protesters were waving placards calling for the closure of the restaurant. Security personnel has asked the group to vacate the premises. Chairperson of the bargaining council for the restaurant, catering and allied workers, Lisija Minyako, explains why they came.
In the sector that we are operating, particularly the fast food and restaurant sector, there is a high level of exploitation. Hence, you see us today in this particular business, which we visited today.
The manager of the restaurant says he has called the owner to address the group. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News, Bedford View.
The Greater Johannesburg Learner Transport Organisation has accused the Gauteng Transport Department of refusing them time to get permits despite submitting and waiting on permits for a year. The department is on a 3-month drive to clamp down on non-compliant scholar transport operators. The operations follow a fatal scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in which 14 learners were killed earlier this month. Nonhlanhla Klassen, who speaks for the organisation, says operators are frustrated by the delays from the department.
No, now we're trying to comply with them, but they are not willing to comply with us. We are still taking in more. So we're saying to them, give us time for us to be able to sort out international permits about FUNAI, which we applied for from last year, and none of our members, not even one, although I told. We're trying to, okay, fine.
And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arrived in Beijing to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, hoping to restore relations. It's the first visit to China by a UK Prime Minister since 2018 and follows a string of Western leaders courting Beijing in recent weeks, pivoting from the United States. Starmer, who is also expected to visit Shanghai on Friday, will later make a brief stop in Japan. For Xi, the trip is an opportunity to show Beijing can be a reliable partner at a time when President Donald Trump's policies have rattled ties between Washington and its Western allies. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng this afternoon with isolated showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs of 28 and 31 degrees.
Claremont, Pretoria, slow-moving traffic on Bremer Street between the Dustport Tunnel and the R80. Traffic lights out of order in Rosebank, Republic and Jan Smuts, as well as in Marlborough at Marlborough Drive and the N3 North.
The top story in Eyewitness News. ANC fixer and alleged crime intelligence asset Brown Mokgotsi refuses to appear before Parliament's Police Ad Hoc Committee until his security demands are met.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
In a recent Business Day piece, one of your colleagues, Virat Chada, argued that despite government support programs, grants, training initiatives, many township businesses remain stuck, even although we talk much about the township economy.
We talk about the informal sector as a separate thing, but we all know, say for example, if Ugogo takes Magwinya, that lady goes to any wholesaler to buy flour, to buy sugar, so they are part of their value chain.
Yeah.
So how we think about it as informal, quite a strange thing.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or will you thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries. World-class team of 1,111 with one mission, awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis. Undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't can you afford to enroll, it's can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
Are your nails discolored, brittle, crumbly, or appear ragged? Are they thickened or starting to lift off the nail bed? You may have a fungal nail infection, which can lead to discomfort, limit your activities, and have a negative impact on your social life because of the embarrassment. New Turbane Nail treats fungal nail infections by directly killing the fungus. It requires no filing before application and dries in about 30 seconds once applied. Ask your pharmacist about New Turbane Nail and say goodbye to fungal nail infections.
Make 2026 the year of venturing further in the Tank 300. With its 5-star luxury cabin and powerful 2.4 turbo diesel engine, the Tank 300 is built for the scenic route and is available from only $7,399 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's and to book a test drive. GWM, go with more. Brought to you by GWM Finance, a division of Westbank, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, Dr. John. I like your topic. Hey, I went to the office. Okay, we're back in the office now anyway. So when we were in the lift, there was like 4 people, and then there was me and my 2 other colleagues. When we went in, it becomes so awkward. It becomes so awkward, like the silence, right? And you don't know what to do with yourself. I mean, it was just 2 floors up, but the awkwardness, the silence, it felt like it's 2 floors up, but it felt like forever. Like, yeah, I was thinking about it last week as well. I was like, yo, what do you do when you get into the lift? Besides, obviously, you greet. Okay, I know it's not obvious for other people, but yeah, what do you do? Yo, the silence that day.
Hi, Joan, and hi, 702 lenders. Notes from Midrand. I always greet people when I get inside the lift because I always think of what if this lift gets stuck? Then I get to be like, now I want to start a conversation. I always greet. I think also I always think of if I would collapse and I didn't greet anyone, would that person help me or those people in the lift? Like, yeah. So greeting, you don't have to maybe have a conversation, but you can just say hi in case.
Yeah, it's really, we're getting a lot of conversation on this. I mean, Paul says, I am generally a chatty individual. I chat everywhere. Mohau says, nah, just light my cigarette. Yeah, right. Mohau, I don't believe you at all. Lerato says, I definitely greet because the silence is too awkward. The 10th floor can feel like 10 kilometers. I'm not against chatting, but I am unlikely to start it. So somebody who gets a conversation going, clearly welcome. Agnes says, no, it's so awkward. And this one, let's have a look. A couple of others, yeah, we'll have a look. Yeah, here we go. Badimo says, there's me, being a South African in LA, Los Angeles, of course, got in a lift and greeted everyone inside, and shockingly I was met with a deafening silence. That etiquette is country and culture specific. Eloise, all depends on my mood. I'm generally that person that feels the need to fill silence. There's another part of it, by the way. If you get in maybe 2 of you, companions in under whatever circumstances, and the lift's already full, do you continue your conversation without necessarily including the other 7 people? That also quite often goes on. People, they start talking a little bit more quietly, and there's more murmur than conversation. But, can we have lots of conversations in a lift or none? Give us a ring on that, please. We're still interested in what you have to say on 072 7021 702 19 minutes to 4.
EWN Sport.
Coming to us live from the 2nd floor, Tolakele Mganga.
Thanks so much, John. Jessica Bugela has reached the semi-finals of the Australian Open for the first time after a straight set win over Amanda Asimnova, and will next play Elena Rybakina, who beat Iga Swiatek. In the men's draw, Novak Djokovic was in big trouble against Lorenzo Musetti, who led 6-4 and 6-3 before the Italian injured his upper right leg and was forced to retire. Djokovic will now play defending champion Jannik Sinner in the semis.
I always have a chance. It's semi-finals of a Grand Slam, so in terms of level of confidence and motivation, of course it's always there. I mean, it must be, otherwise, what's the point of competing? So I've been in this situation many times in my career, and obviously 4 times last year. I'm glad to repeat the best Grand Slam result from last year, which is reaching the semis. I know that it's only going to get tougher from here, but I have to be ready for it now.
The Proteas kicked off the final leg of their T20 World Cup preparations with a comfortable 9-wicket win over the West Indies in Paarl. George Linda was named man of the match after taking 3 for 25 as he fine-tunes his skill ahead of next month's tournament.
Trying to win it, South Africa, that's obviously the main goal. Yeah, sometimes the conditions in India is very tough for spinners, especially because sometimes the wicket doesn't turn and it's pretty easy to hit because the boundary is also very small there. So you got to be on top of your game. Got to analyze certain players. Sometimes it just goes down to like certain field placing, certain balls you want to bowl.
Mamelodi Sundowns have opened a 3-point gap at the top of the Betway Premiership standings following a 2-0 victory over Sekhukhune United. Nuno Santos and Brian Leon scored the goals, with the latter making it 2 in 3 appearances for the Brazilians. Miguel Cardoso, however, is not getting carried away with that result. That's due to second-place Orlando Pirates having 2 games in hand.
I said that this championship would be played probably up to the end in a very tough way. And it has to do, obviously, with the reinforcement that was clear from our opponents, and that year after year they gather energy in order to fight to these years of success that Sundowns has been having. And we just need to be committed with, as I said, with the good moments and also on the ones that are not so good. Don't lose the focus on the direction we have to travel together.
And Red Bull are reconsidering their pre-season testing schedule at Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya. That's after new recruit Isaac Hachgar crashed in wet conditions. The Frenchman was promoted from racing bulls and lost control at the final corner and spun backwards into the barriers during a behind-closed-doors session. Team principal Laurent Meikes says the team are assessing the damage before deciding their plans for the rest of the week. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Getting busier on the roads, it's 16 minutes to 4. Eyewitness traffic with Plumlink, your local plumbing store. Visit plumlink.co.za to find your nearest store. Problems out in Tembisa, out on the east side of Gauteng. Karabo Charlie has those details and everything else you need to know.
Well, at this stage in Tembisa, traffic pressure on Andrew Mapeto Drive between Allendale and Birch Acres Square. In Midrand, traffic also heavily backed up on the N1 South from Allendale to the Patlu interchange, leaving Sandton. Traffic sluggish on Grayston Drive between Rivonia Road and Catherine Street. While in Benoni, there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Atlas Road between Main Reef Road and the N12 and in Claremont, Pretoria. Slow-moving traffic. This is on Bremer Street between the Dustboard Tunnel and the R80. Going back to Midrand, we have a voice note detailing what's happening. This is on the N1.
Traffic is a bit sluggish just after Allendale towards Patlu interchange. I'm stuck on traffic as we speak now. It just started now recently. I think people can expect some delays. Not sure as to what's happening there in front, but it's gonna be starting to be heavy in no time. Itumeleng stuck on traffic.
Thanks, Itumeleng. You can also send us more details on that issue. You can WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
If it's plumbing, you'll find it at Plumlink, South Africa's largest plumbing retailer. From pipes, fittings, geysers, and baths to basins, taps, tools, and accessories, we've got it all. With more than 10,000 quality products at the right price and over 150 stores nationwide, there's always a Plumlink near you, ready to help with expert advice and unbeatable value. Find your nearest branch today at plumlink.coza.
Plumlink, your local plumbing store. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, we asked you a very simple question. Do you chat in the lift? Do you feel uncomfortable if there's silence? Do you feel uncomfortable if other people want to talk to you? And what about greeting everybody in the lift, even if it's just a general hi, everybody? Annalise says, my husband, yes, chats in the lift. She says, that is how we made friends with some German girls in Umhlanga on holiday about 6 years ago. And we've had somebody else as well saying, yeah, I've met some really interesting people in the lift. I mean, here, to be honest, you're going to have to do it really quickly because our building is not particularly tall. Tolakele, obviously, you're not only ever in this building, you've had longer lift rides in your life. Chatty?
Not really.
Okay.
The lift is my time to kind of compose myself and prepare myself for wherever I'm going. So I like to be in my head. But I do tend to find that once I just do like the general, hello, how are you? And then I keep quiet.
Yes.
Then there's just some people that just go and go. And I'm like, you know what, girl? You're going to have to take the L, entertain the conversation. It's not going to ruin your day.
Yes.
Just give them those few minutes and then move on with your life.
Yeah. Have you ever got out at an earlier floor because somebody's bending your ear?
Sometimes.
Or stayed longer because you thought, ooh, quite like that person.
Sometimes I've pressed literally every button so we can just keep on going up, up, up.
Wow.
Then
Yes.
we come down. And they're like, which floor are you going to again? And then we press their floor just so the conversation can end.
I'm surprised people don't notice you and say, oh, here she comes again. The one who presses all the floors, dear me. 702 Drive, your thoughts on that, please, on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. 12 minutes to 4.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Just something else I want to get some feedback from you before we get into our next story. I've been seeing quite a bit, some of it's on social media and a bit of a back and forth, couple of articles, but people are starting to talk about the possible difficulties or actual difficulties now of getting visas to go to the World Cup in North America. Some games of the opening rounds for Bafana Bafana. I think there's 2 in Mexico, Mexico City, Monterrey, if I'm correct, and then a game in Atlanta. So Mexico, I would think no problems at all, but visas to the US, anyone making plans, anyone revising plans, and perhaps you're in the travel business. Maybe you're putting together a tour group, maybe you help people find accommodation and flights related to major sporting events. Visa issues, any battles, any troubles yet? I'd like an update, just a sense of what's out there. So if you do have some insight or some info or a personal experience, please do drop me a note on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
Drive home with John Perlman
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, whether you're listening to The Money Show with Stephen Curtis, and you should, between 6 and 8, or keeping up with stuff through Stephen's regular bulletins. He's with us, by the way, at about 25 minutes past 4. You will know that the gold price has been absolutely roaring ahead. So, by the way, has the price of silver. Just to give you the latest gold price, it's up over $100 an ounce today, 5,283. The price of silver has moved 1.82%, so also continuing its particular tear. The current price of silver, $113.99 an ounce. Good news for gold mining companies, very good news for the JSE. So if you are in any index-related funds, this is a good time for you, thanks to the yellow metal. Good news, I guess, as well, if you're a gold miner. Hopefully it's going to find its way into mine workers' wages when the next round of talks come up. Not so good, though, I would imagine, if you are making jewelry, selling jewelry, and I would think if you are buying jewelry. So what's happening there? Let's welcome our next guest. Chris van Rensburg is a past chairman and a current board member of the Jewelry Council of South Africa. Also has his own jewelry manufacturing operation there in Joburg. The company is called Studio C, and he's with us now. Chris van Rensburg, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. Gold's been on this rise and surge for quite a while now. How's it affecting you and your colleagues? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, listeners. Yes, the last 12 to 18 months have been really challenging, growing into the new norm. And ultimately, hardest hit is the consumer paying the price at the end of it. And there's definitely been a drop in consumption, purely from an affordability point of view. But there's one thing, we can't always dwell on the negative. The positive in this whole in this turmoil is the fact that the consumer that buys a piece of jewelry today, whether it's gold, platinum, or silver, the tangible component of the piece of jewelry is a larger percentage of the total price than it was before at a lower price.
Right.
So your value add, labor, value chain cost to the consumer becomes a smaller percentage of the total cost. So your tangible value, and I'm looking for positives here, and that's about the only thing I can say that is positive about this.
What?
Apart from that, yes.
No,
Sorry.
please finish the thought, and then I'll come in.
Yeah. So that, like I say, that is about the only positive at this stage. But yes, at the sales point, the consumer is hard hit, and it's affecting volumes of sale, value of sale. So everybody is under a huge amount of pressure, from wholesale to retail, manufacturing, the whole value chain.
I'm just wondering, Chris van Rensburg, about bespoke pieces where, for example, a couple come in, they're about to have a wedding, they've got rings in mind, maybe there's a gifting element that they want to introduce, because people plan well ahead on this. I mean, it must be quite difficult to do costing. And has anybody been faced with saying, listen, you wanted this 8-9 months from now, we agreed on a price, and that price just isn't sustainable at the levels I'm having to pay to get the material?
And unfortunately, it's not possible to be able to honor a quote of 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Right.
It'll be insane. So we are updating on a daily basis. As you know, over the last week or so, it's been on average $100 a day. So we adjust pricing to our trade clients, our private clients, whoever we deal with. It's now on a daily basis, and the quotation is only valid for the day.
Yeah, it must be very challenging. Let's go wider for a moment, and let me ask you this, because you would have been part of conversations, I'm sure, either specific interactions or just a broader conversation about the importance of us beneficiating minerals in general in the country, but precious metals, I think, has had a very particular focus as well. Given that we're trying to do this must be a setback for those bigger projects, because younger people looking to break their way in, either through their creativity or their business nous or both, must be finding it very hard. If they got a toehold in the industry, they must be wondering if they're about to fall.
Yeah, the challenge is obviously, to finance your business, and
Yes.
Your business plan a year ago as opposed to today are two completely different things. So it's very difficult for entrants to enter, especially wanting to work in platinum and gold. And so the same for silver. Silver has increased year to date 4 times, or 4x. It's
Yes.
huge. For youngsters going out there, getting the orders, and then how do you finance it? How do you get those orders out just to finance the metal to be able to produce? Never mind all the other associated costs with it. Just financing the metal it's a huge challenge, and it affects new entrants, and overall beneficiation is under pressure. We're not meeting the targets that is set.
What's the timeline on the order of gold? I mean, first of all, I have no idea where you get it from. There must be suppliers who move quantities, smaller quantities of the metal. But I mean, if you wanted to try and what's hedge in some way, I mean, is that possible, or is the ordering process too slow considering the speed at which the price changes are moving?
Yeah, to hedge, you do need critical mass. So on a smaller scale, it's not possible to actually
Right.
hedge. It's a case of buying on the day, getting a client to commit either with a deposit or something that you can hold them to that you paid that price, even if you're only manufacturing in 2 or 3 weeks' time, but you've managed to buy at a price to be able to hold to the quote.
Is this a good time for people, and I'm sure there's some who are listening, I've got a particular relative of mine in mind who had some gold jewelry that was reflected more than one inheritance. There were a couple of pieces left to them by different relatives who passed. And generally they were told, listen, this stuff doesn't have any particular value in terms of its aesthetics because they're very dated, but we would buy it and smelt it and reuse it. I mean, is this a good time if you've got older stuff that you either no longer use or like? Is there a substantial move in the market for that?
Definitely. You'll be surprised what value people hold in old, unused jewelry in a little box somewhere in the cupboard. It turns out to be tens of thousands of rands.
Yeah.
On that note, ultimately, you do need to deal with reputable people when you do sell, and I'd always advise to always deal with a member of the Jewelry Council of South Africa, as in that type of transaction you have recourse in case of a dispute in line with the Consumer Protection Act principles and standards, and there's arbitration forums and all kinds of avenues.
Yes.
So the consumer wishing to sell their jewelry needs to, the burden's on them also to make sure that where they sell and where they buy and who they buy from is somebody that can be trusted and is part of a system with recourse.
Thank you so much, Chris van Rensburg. We wish you and all your colleagues and contemporaries and peers, I should rather say, in the industry, luck in dealing with this difficult time. Overwhelmingly, I think there's excitement and upside in regard to the gold price. We don't, as far as I know, mine or do much with silver in South Africa. But if you're in the jewelry business, tough times. Maybe you want to add something to what Chris had to say. He was joining us from the Jewelry Council, the South African Jewelry Council. He was a former chair of that body and is currently a board member and involved in the business himself. 702 Drive.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
On the Midday Report, every day from 12 to 1 p.m, we will bring you breaking news from the scene as it unfolds with newsmakers, reporters, commentators, experts and analysts. We'll explain the stories of the day, give you context for why they are important and what they mean for you. It is everything you need to know in 1 hour, from news to global events, business, sports, science, books, and always some good news too. Appointment listening, every day at 12 with the Midday Report.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Applications at UNISA's Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs, the TM School, are now open. Apply for the Master of Arts in Public Policy and International Affairs, the Doctor of Philosophy in Public Policy and International Affairs, or one of UNISA's 17 short learning programs. The Thabo Mbeki School, training leaders who solve complex problems in Africa and beyond. For more information, send an email to tm-school@unisa.ac.za. UNISA, define tomorrow.
From pioneering investments in the telecom sector to getting a foot in the door in the early days of private media, the Mine Workers Investment Company has always been on the lookout for new and innovative companies to advance South Africa as a nation, while building financial security for our country's mine workers and their families. As we end a year of looking back on 3 decades of incredible successes, we look forward to the next 3 decades and beyond. Join us as we celebrate 30 years of MIC.
This message is brought to you by Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Are you running a business? Every rand counts. Save electricity and cut costs by switching off lights, computers, and air cons after hours. Use energy-efficient lighting and equipment and make saving electricity part of your daily routine. Smart energy habits mean lower bills and greener business future. Let's power success efficiently.
Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
Across South Africa, thousands of learners face the daily reality of period poverty, and the Dis-Chem Foundation's Million Comforts campaign has been working to change that. For more than a decade now, the initiative has made sanitary products accessible in schools, helping learners show up with confidence, stay focused in class, and stay in school. Now, Million Comforts is entering a new chapter. It's really exciting what they have in mind, and it goes well beyond just providing those sanitary packs. Tomorrow on Afternoon Drive, we'll hear how new partnerships are helping expand the program into other areas: hygiene, education, health services, mentorship, life skills training, and career guidance for both boys and girls. Remember, every swipe of your Dis-Chem Better Rewards card makes you part of this journey. So don't miss this timely conversation tomorrow with me, John Perlman, on Afternoon Drive. The Dis-Chem Foundation, caring for the community. Every swipe counts.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. This is EWN.
KZN Hawks boss pleads ignorance to Matlala's alleged crimes, and Parliament hit by protests over the film and TV industry's funding freeze. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. We begin in the capital, where KwaZulu-Natal Hawks boss Leseja Senona has refused to admit he knew criminally accused tender don Vusmusi Kat Matlala was involved in alleged illicit activities. Senona claims there was no malice in the brotherly bond he shared with Matlala. He's added that he intended to gradually cut ties with Matlala after he was implicated in serious acts of corruption and attempted murder. But despite this, there's been evidence of messages between the pair on the day before Matlala was arrested by members of the PKTT in May last year. Senona says after Matlala's arrest, he severed ties, something the commission brushed off as nonsensical.
Number one, after his arrest, I've never called him. Number two, I've never visited him in any prison where he was detained. Number three, I've never attended his court where he came with bail application.
Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, the Police Ad Hoc Committee has resolved to subpoena Brown Mokhodzi to force him to appear, calling his list of security demands ridiculous. Mokhodzi, an ANC fixer and alleged crime intelligence asset, has refused to appear before the Ad Hoc Committee investigating police corruption until his demands are met, which entail that Parliament pay for his private security when he gives oral evidence. Babala Ndenza has more.
Brown Mokhodzi was supposed to appear to give evidence tomorrow, but he's refused to accept the current arrangement by Parliament. Committee Secretary Bonani Ramano says Mokhodzi wants Parliament to foot the bill for his private security.
He says that he doesn't want to be protected by people that he doesn't know. He prefers to have his own people protecting him, and he was requesting that Parliament must fund that for a period of 7 days.
But Chairperson Sovet Lechanyane dismissed Mokhodzi's demands.
It is uncertain as to whether Mr. Mokhodzi is going to be here tomorrow, given the ridiculous demands that he is making to Parliament, that he has his own private security.
Mokhodzi will only be subpoenaed once the Speaker gives her approval, a decision expected to happen over the next few days. Babala Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
Some employees of high-end restaurants in Johannesburg have complained they're getting paid far below the prescribed minimum wage of 6,000 rand per month. Today, they've taken their plight to the employers' doorsteps, accompanied by the Food and Allied Workers Union, calling for better working conditions. This afternoon, the group visited Italian restaurant Lupa in Bedford Square in Germiston. They're now gathered at Fahrenheit Grill in Edenvale. Chairperson of the Bargaining Council for the Restaurant, Catering and Allied Workers Union, Leseja Minyugu, claims that the restaurant employees only get paid from tips and not a basic salary.
And if you can count the average of 500 rand a week, which is what these employees are taking home, and which is only accumulated from the tips from the customers, and the employers are taking the whole, pocketing the whole profit for themselves, and employees are just working to donate their labor, and at the end of the day, left with nothing.
The KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance Department has critiqued the Impendle local municipality for again failing to pay workers' salaries. This is the third time in 12 months that the municipality in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands failed to honour its obligation. Non-payment of salaries has led to picketing outside municipal offices. Cooperative Governance MEC Thulasizwe Buthelezi is on an oversight visit to the municipality today. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC Thulasizwe Buthelezi is locked in a meeting with councillors inside the Impendle Council chamber. On the agenda is the municipality's deepening financial crisis. Buthelezi says the recurring financial issues are a concern after similar payment struggles were flagged in May and December 2025. The MEC says this is a lack of leadership.
For the third time now in 12 months, they've been unable to pay salaries, which is totally unacceptable. Shows a complete lack of leadership, both politically and administratively.
The department says it's considering ways to get the municipality's books out of the red.
Therefore, we do make a call that proper financial management must happen in all municipalities so that we are accountable for the funds that we receive from the national fiscus.
He adds that all 54 municipalities in the province should be held to account. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Impendle.
And film and television industry professionals say a government funding freeze is costing the sector jobs and international projects. The group protested outside Parliament today, demanding the reinstatement of government grants. One of the demonstrators, Wandile Mulebazi, says the Trade, Industry and Competition Department has failed to provide the industry with its promised funding stimulus since 2024. The stimulus is intended to help filmmakers repay loans taken out to cover production costs, but Mulebazi says without the grant, productions are struggling under what he calls unrealistic interest rates. He says the DTIC has also not accepted any new funding applications since March 2024.
One of the demands is to create a fit-for-purpose film fund that acknowledges the film funding cycles, because the interest rate that the IEC is charging filmmakers is just completely unrealistic. They don't seem to understand how film cycles work.
The DA's DTIC Portfolio Committee member, Roger Chance, says more than 600 million rand is owed to the industry, with uncertainty around where the money will come from. Creatives, Mulebazi says, are also demanding an in-person meeting with Minister Parkstow.
They are demanding an immediate resumption of the adjudication committee meetings, demanding a meeting with the Honourable Minister to discuss these details. And we're demanding an in-person meeting, because having these emails or these Zoom meetings is just not working.
Gold's trading at $5,250.17 an ounce. The rand's at 15.92 to the dollar, at 21.92 to the pound, at 19.03 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $68.07 a barrel.
Midrand traffic backing up on the N1 southbound. This is between New Road and the Bethlehem interchange due to a stationary truck leaving the Melrose Santon area heading towards Midrand. Traffic heavily backed up. This is on the M1 northbound from Killarney Bench to the Bethlehem interchange, and in Alex travelling towards Germiston, expect about a 30-minute delay. N3 south from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren.
In your sport, Novak Djokovic gets lucky as he sets up Jannik Sinner's semi-final showdown at the Australian Open. George Linder needs consistency to make T20 World Cup impact. And Mamelodi Sundowns strike late to extend their lead at the top of the Betway Premiership standings. A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with scattered afternoon thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 19 degrees and peak at highs of 28. Pretoria is at 20, reaching highs of 30 degrees. Vereeniging's at 17, reaching highs of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. KwaZulu-Natal Hawks boss Leseja Senona has refused to admit he knew criminally accused tender Don Vusmusi Kat Matlala was involved in alleged illicit activities.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 drive, it's 11 minutes past 4. Just a quick comment from my side. Welcome to the show, by the way. On that news item leading Maki Molapo's bulletin, the testimony that we're currently hearing and, obviously the questions prompted by that testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. We have in the hot seat, I suppose, in the spotlight, to use a more neutral term, Major General Lisicha Sinona. Now, he has risen to the point where he's the head of the Hawks in KZN. He has had a long career in the South African Police Service. And I don't know if you've watched either the parliamentary process or the Madlanga Commission, but every single witness in the beginning goes through their CV. And it's always a CV of great excellence when it comes to senior police officers. They rose through the ranks, they distinguished themselves in this or that way, and they have now reached the elevated position that they now hold, which would suggest that they are very good at certain things, like joining the dots, like looking for information that might lead you to other information, like working out where there might be malfeasance taking shape, and acting before it becomes a real blight on a community or the wider society. You get the picture. They are good at that stuff. What is absolutely extraordinary, though, is when they are asked to account for their relationships with people like Vusimuzi, Kat Maklala, but there are others as well. Their capacity to join the dots, to look for the way in which pieces of information connect to each other, disappears completely. That detective ability to find what is behind the obvious disappears without a trace. It's very noticeable. I think it's quite often extremely implausible. But I just thought I would reflect on that next time you're sitting down to watch, as of course I do. Partly because it's my job, but because it really is compelling to watch these things unfold. As those distinguished CVs of great integrity and courage, but above all, ability to do detective work unfold, just bear in mind that may not be sustained through the duration of their appearance. 702 Drive, it's 13 minutes past 4. Conversations in lifts. Do you chat as you press the button for your floor? Let's hear what a couple of you had to say.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey, good afternoon, Uncle John. Alana here from the Val. Hey, fun you speaking about lift etiquette. I'm a greeter, Uncle John. I am a greeter. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned when you greet someone. The reaction, some they embrace the greeting. Some you could just look at their faces and it's a clear warning that says, don't go beyond the greeting. I'm not in the mood. But just in my nature, I even greet people when I do my runs. Some people don't, even when they see me approach, they will greet me. If I pass a bus stop of some sort, they will greet me because they know I'm going to greet them. Thanks, Uncle John.
Yeah, thanks. Friendly people while running. I must say, I always greet people while I'm cycling. It's often nothing more than a wave. Still to come on 702 Drive. This is a story, I think, of great concern to all of us. The fact that in the volume of applications for people looking to immigrate and seek work overseas, a large number of them are healthcare professionals. And that's because the need in countries like Canada, and we'll give you more details, also a reference to an excellent article you can read on this. But people, large numbers of people are wanting, who are health professionals, are wanting to go and work somewhere else. The implications, I think, are significant. The numbers are concerning. We'll talk about that in a moment, but traffic first.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, so we've got some rain. Karabo Charlie, where's that having an impact and what kind of impact is it having?
Well, it's throughout Gauteng, Pretoria, Joburg, Ekurhuleni, wet, slippery roads, so allow for extra traveling time, maintain a safe following distance, and keep your headlights on. At this stage in Midrand, traffic is backed up. This is on the N1 southbound between Ellendale and the Bethune Interchange due to a stationary truck driving through Melrose. Also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 northbound between Killarney Bains and the Bethune Interchange, while in Alex heading towards Germiston, expect about a 30-minute delay on the N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren. Benoni traffic heavily backed up on Atlas Road between Main Reef Road and the N12. Kempton Park also bumper-to-bumper traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooirivier. While in the city of Tshwane, Centurion traffic pressure on the N1 northbound. This is from the N14 Platfontein interchange all the way to the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. And in Claremont, also slow-moving traffic. That's in Pretoria West on Bremer Street between the Dustport Tunnel and the R80. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. 702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
So what is a white labeling business?
Let me give you an example, then it's way easier to understand. If I have a cosmetics manufacturing plant, I can manufacture my own brand, but then I can manufacture something for anybody else that's not under my own brand. So that's called white labeling. So if you're an expert in making body butters, as an example, you can then make body butters for anybody. You just put them under the different brands. It takes a very long time to build a brand, but if you're known as an expert in a certain area, use that to your advantage.
Dr. Diane Boerman, Business Growth Specialist.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Municipal services are vital to keeping the city safe, clean and functional. By paying for municipal services such as your water bill, you're investing in Johannesburg's water supply. Paying for your service is not just a transaction, it is a commitment to your community's sustainability. Help pave the way for a brighter tomorrow, one payment at a time. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
At Premier Hotels and Resorts, business travelers staying alone enjoy a complimentary drink every night of their stay. So, whatever your tipple, it's on the house at any of our 24 hotels and resorts nationwide. Book today at premierhotels.co.za.
Do you suffer from migraines? Have you been previously diagnosed by a doctor and treated for migraine? Ask your pharmacist about previously prescribed migraine treatments that are now available without prescription. Brought to you by Sandoz.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
19 minutes past 4. Well, earlier today I read an excellent piece on the Business Tech site, by the way, the author Caitlin Hilliard-Lomas, who looks at the question of healthcare workers in South Africa, doctors, nurses, and others who are looking to go and work in other parts of the world. They have issues with employment here. Either they can't find work, or the work they have is work that they don't particularly want. And according to a company called Beaver Immigration, 1 in 4 emails they get inquiring about any kind of assistance they might be able to offer is, quote, always from a health care professional wanting to emigrate. Joining us from Beaver Immigration is Managing Director and of Beaver Migration and Recruitment. We say a very good afternoon to Nicholas Avramis. Very good afternoon to you, Nicholas. Thanks so much for giving us your time. 1 in 4, has that gone up lately? And if so, give us a sense of the timeline.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being back on the air. The exodus of healthcare workers has been a phenomenon that's been growing in South Africa for many years. the reason that is there's always been a push-pull factor in this particular market. One, we have a lot of unemployed, underemployed healthcare professionals in the country. And then there's a big global demand in the global north for healthcare professionals due to demographics and changing dynamics. And this phenomenon is going to accelerate over the next coming years.
Is this because people can't, you talk about unemployed, underemployed, but to what extent is there also a sense of dissatisfaction, and possibly is there unease over whether it comes into being or not, over the kind of conversations and what people are gaining from those, or getting from the conversations around NHI?
NHI has been an extremely hot-button issue in the South African healthcare sphere, especially among specialists. It's given them a lot of uncertainty. Doctors, by the end of the day, they need to make money like everyone else. And when there's uncertainty, or when government's fettering with that, they're going to look to other markets potentially to ensure that they're adequately satisfied for their services. Especially with specialists, they've been in school 10, 15 years, and by the end of the day, they're looking for a payoff and return on their investment as well, right? And if that's potentially jeopardized due to regulatory restrictions or policies, they're going to look to make a move in another market.
I want to ask if you're getting not just a rise, Mr. Avramis, in numbers, but also maybe is anything shifting qualitatively in the inquiries? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. My sense is that, and this is from, to some degree, experience of people I know, that they wanted to go abroad. They maybe had student loans. They wanted to get paid in a stronger currency. They wanted the experience, a whole lot of those kinds of factors, but all of them framed within the idea of, okay, let's do this for a couple of years. Are you seeing more and more that people not only want to go for a couple of years, but they actually want to go for a couple of years and then another couple and probably not come back?
That's a really interesting question. And it depends which markets you're dealing with. Within the Canadian context, we've probably sent over about 600-700 South Africans over the last couple of years. Probably about 10-15% have been doctors, and overall healthcare workers at 20%. And they never come back.
Yes.
When it's a country like Canada, they stay there, they assimilate quickly, and it's usually about the kids. When you look at the UK market, that's a bit of a different story. There's always a 5 to 10 year plan. They go there, they make their money, and then they always come back to South Africa. Not always, but in most cases. And then when you look at countries like the Netherlands, which has a big South African diaspora, and Belgium, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some people stay there the long term. Some people have their 5-year plan to make their money, gain their experience, and then repatriate back to South Africa. The same with Australia.
Yeah, those different patterns are very, very interesting indeed. And when you said the UK, I thought the weather. Well, I thought, Canada can get pretty cold as well. Is this just reality, or is there something that we as a country should be doing? I mean, there's an argument that if people are going away and getting other experience, Nicholas, that ultimately that experience and the dividends that brings comes back to us. But this sounds more like a hemorrhage.
It depends who you're talking to. It depends how you view it. There are people who are adamant and have had this narrative that there's this brain drain in the country. There are other people who counter that there's not a brain drain in the country. How can you have one when you have an over-excess supply of labor? And people will point out, well, if there's a brain drain, which industry can't operate? I can tell you in the global north and in North America, there's shortages of doctors and they have to close ERs. There's wait lists for retirement homes. I've never heard of a hospital shutting down because of a lack of human capital and labor available. I know public hospitals here shut down because they're not paying their employees. There's budget cuts, and we know that because we get calls from nurses from the Eastern Cape all the time about they haven't been paid. So it's a bit of a dilemma. There's narratives and counter-narratives to that issue about the brain drain. But at the end of the day, John, you can't restrict the mobility of people to earn a living. If they want to stay in South Africa to work, great. If they want to exploit and leverage their human capital talent in the global market, they should do that.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Avramis is Managing Director of Beaver Migration and Recruitment. Now, I did mention the reference that I gave to the story, which is on the Business Tech website. Some of the statistics in that story, I just want to share with you briefly. Caitlin Hilliard-Lomas shares this. Department of Health says, from 2013 to 2025, we lost 12,745 doctors, 58,897 nurses, 1,341 pharmacists. In addition, another 28,000 odd other healthcare practitioners have also left. OTs, physios, I would have thought would be amongst them. And then the SAMA Vice Chairperson, Dr. Zanele Bikicha, has confirmed that nearly 6,000 doctors and nurses resign from government hospitals each year. I think we have a problem. 702 Drive.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
In a recent Business Day piece, one of your colleagues, Virat Chada, argued that despite government support programs, grants, training initiatives, many township businesses remain stuck, even though we talk much about the township economy.
We talk about the informal sector as a separate thing, but we all know, say for example, if Ugogo takes Magwinya, that lady goes to any wholesaler to buy flour, to buy sugar, so they are part of their value chain.
Yeah.
So how we think about it as informal, quite a strange thing.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
This weekend, 31 January, BYD invites you to drive the dream because progress should be drivable. From your first car to growing your family or just wanting to explore the open roads, there's a BYD designed for your journey. Join BYD dealerships nationwide and stand a chance to win one of 10 BYD Dream experiences to the value of 20,000 Rand. BYD is powering your journey 1 kilowatt at a time. Book your test drive at the nearest BYD dealership. BYD, build your dreams. T's and C's apply.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
EWN Business.
29 past 4, first business update to the afternoon with Stephen Curtis. Good day.
Afternoon to you, John. Well, gold first going past $5,000 this announced this week, then $5,100 this morning, $5,200, and around about lunchtime, $5,300 for the first time in human history. I must just point out a big part of this, John, is because of a weaker dollar. The dollar is weaker against the rand and other currencies because people are expecting an interest rate cut. There are also concerns about the long-term value of the dollar, particularly because of who the US President Donald Trump might appoint to take over at the US Federal Reserve, and all of that having a big impact on the gold price. It's slipped below $5,300 for the moment, but if things continue in this particular way, it's likely to continue going up again. The JSE All Share up 0.92% on the day, 124,549 points. Financials down 0.85%, industrials down nearly 0.5%, and resources up 3.65%, led, as you can imagine, primarily by gold shares. So Gold Fields up 6.89%, Harmony up 6.25%, Anglo Gold up nearly 5%, Pan-African Resources up 4.3%, Sibanye up 4% as well. One or two of the platinum miners, Northam up quite strongly as well. And then Truworths, the retailer, they're up 4.22%. Interestingly, Mr. Price had an update today, and John, their management's come in for a real pounding over their purchase of NKD. But the data showing that their retail sales in the third quarter of last year were up by 3.6%. That's compared to just 1.6% for the market as a whole. Very strong December for Mr. Price. Their sales up 5.9%. And you may remember yesterday I was talking about Lewis and how nearly 70% of their sales were on credit. For Mr. Price, cash sales were nearly 91% of their sales. The difference is huge. It's really interesting. Credit sales for them are up 2.9%. Sappi down 5.78%. Vodacom down by 2.69%. Telkom also down 2.39%, and We Buy Cars down nearly 3%. Interestingly, in Germany, the German government today lowering their growth forecast for this year and next year because of uncertainty in international trade. And so they've trimmed their forecast for 2026 from 1.3% to just 1%. Interesting to see what's happening in other parts of the world at the moment. U.S. markets about to open. Everyone's expecting a sort of another record high of the S&P 500. Because of gains in chip stocks, everyone there is waiting for a cut in the U.S. in interest rates, which would basically push markets higher as well. The gold price, $5,259.69 an ounce. Platinum, $2,657.50. Brent crude, higher, John. Also because of a weaker dollar, $68.47. And the rand to the dollar, 15.92. Was it 15.88 earlier? To the euro, 19.04. To the British pound, 21.94. Stephen Crotis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Back with us in about 55 minutes' time at 28 minutes to 5. It's time to catch up with the news. Maki Mulapo, good afternoon again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Police have not ruled out making further arrests as investigations continue into alleged procurement irregularities at the City of Johannesburg's social housing company. The municipal entity's CEO, Themba Matibe, was arrested on Monday following a police raid at the company's offices. Matibe was later released on 50,000 rand bail after appearing in court on charges of money laundering. During the raid, police questioned several senior officials at the Johannesburg social housing company. Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate.
Investigations continue and the possibility of effecting further arrests cannot be ruled out at this stage. Following an extensive investigation into allegations of procurement irregularities at the Johannesburg Social Housing Company, the SAPS Cold Case Unit and Special Task Force effected an arrest on a charge of money laundering after the CEO was found with a substantial amount of money at his home.
Opposition parties in the Western Cape are piling the pressure on national government for more police resources to tackle gang violence and crime in the province. More than 40 people have allegedly been killed in gang-related shootings in the province in the past week. A recent parliamentary reply from the SAPS also reveals the Western Cape has close to 300,000 active criminal cases and only 82 detectives assigned to investigate organised crime. Carlo Peterson has more.
This week, the Democratic Alliance called on Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia to urgently prioritise deploying additional detectives to the Western Cape. The call comes after a recent SAPS report to Parliament showed, on average, one detective in the province is burdened with 107 case dockets. DA Western Cape spokesperson for Police Oversight and Community Safety, Benedict van Minnen.
The DA has repeatedly warned that without urgent intervention by national government, SAPS in the Western Cape will continue to fall behind violent criminals. Communities cannot be expected to live under siege, while detectives lack vehicles, manpower and basic operational support.
Kachalia's office has indicated the acting minister will respond to the opposition parties' concerns later this week. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Western Cape police say detectives are investigating a case of arson after a 35-year-old man was arrested following a fire at Paarl Provincial Hospital. 3 floors of the hospital were evacuated yesterday when the fire broke out, causing damage to a section of the facility. The fire was quickly contained and no injuries were reported. Drakenstein Fire and Rescue Services say early indications suggest the fire may have started near a car parked in front of the hospital. Police spokesperson Ndake Gwala.
A 35-year-old male suspect was apprehended for questioning and later detained. He will appear in the Paarl Magistrates Court on Thursday, 29 January 2026. No injuries were reported. All patients safely evacuated the building. The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation.
And Rwanda has opened a legal battle against the United Kingdom after Britain scrapped an asylum agreement. The agreement would have seen migrants who entered the UK illegally be relocated to the East African country. The arrangement was negotiated before Prime Minister Keir Starmer took office, but he cancelled it shortly after assuming his role as Prime Minister. The Rwandan government says the UK failed to make payments totaling $100 million and refusing to make arrangements to resettle vulnerable refugees. The UK's Home Office figures says the aborted scheme has already cost the UK taxpayer £715 million. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with scattered afternoon thunder showers expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 17 and 20 degrees and peak at highs between 27 and 30 degrees.
Equestria, Pretoria traffic is gridlocked approaching the intersection of Solomon Mahlangu and Linwood Road. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic in Centurion. N1 northbound from the N14 Patlu interchange all the way to the R21 Flying Saucer interchange.
The top story in Eyewitness News. Police have not ruled out making further arrests as investigations continue into alleged procurement irregularities at the City of Johannesburg's social housing company.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
I want to speak about Justice Madlanga.
The kind of contradictions that he portrays, but at the same time holding his ground very firm. Yesterday, when he told the Hawks boss in KZN that you may be complaining that you are being treated unfairly, but at the same time it could be our instruction as the committee. He is the person who should have been named by his parent, the one who saved you while laughing and massaging you at the same time. I like his firmness. One moment you think you are friends, the next moment he has a stern face facing you.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries, world-class team of 1,111 with one mission, awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis. Undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't, can you afford to enroll? It's, can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
Switching to Outsurance Business Insurance was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
Outsurance Business Insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For boutique hotels, catering companies, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Calling all wedding planners and venues, restaurants, conference centers, and hotels. Do you need tables and chairs? Home in One has it all. Do you need cutlery, crockery, table linen, and restaurant equipment? Home in One has it all. Do you need tents, gazebos, or umbrellas? Home in One has it all. Affordable prices, the latest trends, with 2 branches in Pretoria and Johannesburg. Shop online at homein1.co.za because we're your #1 choice. Home in One has it all.
Do you suffer from migraines? Have you been previously diagnosed by a doctor and treated for migraine? Ask your pharmacist about previously prescribed migraine treatments that are now available without prescription. Brought to you by Sandoz.
EWN Sport.
Okay, at 21 minutes to 5, there's Premiership football tonight. The Champions League is underway and the Proteas are in action ahead of the T20 World Cup. Tola Kele with all of that and some tennis too.
Thanks so much, John. And Kaizer Chiefs will look to keep their title charge on track when they travel to Marumo Gallants in the Betway Premiership tonight. Aidan McCarthy and his teammates go into the encounter unbeaten in their last 8 league games. And a win would move them up to second above Soweto rivals Orlando Pirates and 2 behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns.
Yeah, no, the race is on. We won that. We won the league title. And it's very possible. So we just need to work hard and work towards that as our main goal.
18 games are scheduled in the UEFA Champions League tonight as the pool stage comes to an end. Arsenal take on Qariat Al-Matai, looking to end a run that's seen them fail to win their last 3 matches. Mikel Arteta has also revealed that with the team fighting for honours on 4 fronts, he's called on a psychologist to help players deal with the pressure.
We have people in and around the club. We have people with experience that have done that as well. But then I think it's something very internal as well, how you perceive that. And that's on your DNA. People can talk to you, but at the end, you have to do that because everything is good. But what happens when you lose 2 balls in a row? Great. I mean, it's how you react then. And that's psychology that is very difficult. Someone in a room, when you are very protected, can help you to do.
Captain Aiden Markram scored an unbeaten 86 to help the Proteas record a 9-wicket win over the West Indies in the first of 3 T20s. South Africa chased down the Windies score of 173 for 7 with 13 balls to spare as both sides prepare for next month's World Cup. George Linda has discussed the leadership impact of Markram, who also shared in an unbeaten second-wicket partnership of 93 with Ryan Rickleton.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see him in form and the way he hits the ball, the way he makes it look easy and stuff, and like his shot selection and everything is just great to watch. And that was a hell of an innings. I felt he should have got man of the match and definitely not me, but yeah, so yeah, it's obviously very exciting for him to be the player he's, the leader he is, because he's an exceptional leader and we all follow him.
Elena Rabakina says there'll be no room for error against Jessica Bugela as she prepares for the Australian Open semi-final. Rabakina has reached this stage for the first time since 2023, having defeated world number 2 Iga Swiatek in 95 minutes.
The most important for me to be focused on my serve, since it's a big advantage if it works. She's very experienced opponent and she moves well, and also her ball stays quite low, so that makes a bit difficult sometimes to play her. I will try to adjust and talk with my team. We make some plan for the match and we'll try to do my best, definitely.
And France prop Winnie Antonio has retired from all rugby with immediate effect, having been hospitalized on Tuesday for a heart attack. The La Rochelle player had been a pivotal figure for the national team under coach Fabien Galtier, winning 2 Six Nations titles, including the Grand Slam in 2022. Antonio was admitted to hospital yesterday with a suspected cardiac problem, and subsequent medical exams confirmed it was a heart attack. His condition is stable, but he remains under surveillance in intensive care. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, let's get out onto the roads. Let's get you home at 17 minutes to 5. Karabo Charlie with the latest. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, at this stage in Equestria, Pretoria, traffic is gridlocked approaching the intersection of Solomon Mahlangu and Linwood Road. Centurion also traffic pressure, N1 northbound from the N14 Brockfontein interchange all the way to the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Irene expects some delays. This is approaching the intersection of Mayfields Drive and Main Road. Also in Claremont, Pretoria still, there's slow-moving traffic on Bremer Street between the Dustport Tunnel and the R80 Midrand. Traffic heavily backed up on the N1 southbound. This is between Allendale Road and the Butlu interchange due to a stationary vehicle. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, still to come on the show. Illegal outdoor advertising. There are billboards all over the city. Some of them, though, the city of Johannesburg is saying, are actually put up illegally. Some of them are quite massive structures that are getting pulled down. More on that coming up shortly. Maybe there's one in the area where you live. Oren Singh joins us after 5 with his take on what's been happening at the Madlanga Commission today. KZN Hawkshead Major General Lisicha Sinona still giving evidence and facing questions. And then we're going to look at issues around South African tourism. I was under the impression, by the way, that we're going into a real boom period in tourism. I think the numbers are a little bit more complex. We're going to break them down at 5:20. Right now, it's 4:45.
John is on X.
at John Perlman.
So in the holiday season past, one of the things that may have been a feature for you is hosting people or encountering people, even in a fairly casual way, who are not from South Africa and who are tourists and visitors to our country. As I said, we'll talk about those overall numbers a little bit later. And then for other families or friendship circles, there's been the return of people who've been away for a long period of time, used to live here, maybe even grew up in the city where you are together, and will say, wow, this has changed. I certainly had that experience with a relative who was back, who'd grown up in Johannesburg and had some observations, not flattering, I have to say, about the state of the city and its infrastructure. Jonathan Fairbairn, we were chatting a little bit earlier, your very close friend, or one of them, back here after a period away, and we were just chatting. I mean, what do visitors or returning South Africans find changed or strange or puzzling or interesting? Over to you. You had a few thoughts.
Yeah, afternoon, John. So he was last year, 2 years ago, and obviously here now with his wife. And the thing that he noticed was obviously our informal traffic controllers.
Yes.
And within like 2 days of being here, was very irritated by them.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that he and his wife really struggled with was at most traffic lights dealing with, beggars and some ladies there with young children on the side of the traffic lights. And he felt compelled to give, as much as he could at every single traffic light. And he kind of found it weighed quite a bit on his heart and his shoulders. So he struggled with that quite a bit at most traffic lights. And I said, yeah, I mean, it is definitely a thing. And, I think most of us, if you have something, you give, but sometimes you kind of get a little bit numb to these things living in South Africa, sadly. So yeah, those were two of the things that he observed whilst he was here for a month.
Yeah, interesting observations, and that from somebody who knows the country, has lived here before, but has spent a number of years away. Tolakela, I don't know if you have friends who live in other countries, whether they're South African or residents, citizens of those countries who've been out here, and if so, what have they observed about things that, as Kapazela was saying, we've kind of become used to in many ways?
I think, John, I, as someone who lives here every day of my life, if anything, even me, I'm shocked by the lack of service delivery, and to the point where you're like, if I go down the street, I wonder if they still have the pothole.
Yes.
And mind you, haven't gone down that street in 2 years and they still have the pothole. You just become so desensitized to it, to the point like, even if you do complain, who are you going to complain to?
Yeah, and even if you find the right person, will you get any joy and get any change? Karabo Charlie, foreigners and people who visiting from other countries, what's been your experience?
Yeah, there was this guy I met at the Grahamstown Arts Festival. So he was backpacking throughout South Africa. And he was like, are there any white cashiers, waiters, or petrol attendants? Because everywhere he's been, he was served by black people. And he found it a bit odd because in Germany, I guess, yeah, he gets served by all kinds of people there.
Yeah, very interesting observation. So give us your thoughts. Maybe you've had visitors. What were the questions they asked? And by the way, some of them could be just questions of curiosity. It doesn't necessarily have to deal with social decay and things breaking down and people who are unable to earn a living and try to get something at traffic lights. Although if those are your observations, we're very happy to hear those too. 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. It's 11 minutes to 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, this is a story that's been around for quite a while, but we thought we'd focus on it now. The city of Johannesburg says that it's going to crack down on these huge illegal and high-impact billboards, high impact in terms of their consumption of electricity, but also the way in which they take up space, maybe even shut out light from people who live in the neighborhood. Many of these billboards, or certainly enough of them, are illegal and therefore a cause of great concern for the city. Musa Makunga is CEO of the Johannesburg Property Company. They're at the forefront of trying to deal with this, and it's very interesting to try and get a sense of how that's working. Mr. Makunga, welcome. Thanks very much for giving us your time. Is this a problem that has got significantly worse in recent years, or has the city been dealing with this for a while?
Good afternoon to the listeners. And indeed, I think this is a matter that the city of Johannesburg has been dealing with for a while. And I think, as you've highlighted, it's just indeed getting out of hand, or it's getting worse now, where the city is actually losing a lot of money, and we're seeing a lot of clutter. And now and again, we see a lot of these illegal billboards mushrooming throughout the city of Johannesburg.
When you come across an illegal billboard, are you and you obviously start taking action? Are you seeing any patterns? I mean, for example, I wouldn't think this is a kind of a small scale entrepreneur, although some of the billboards may be mobile and perhaps a little easier in terms of startup costs. But I would think some of these are connected to large companies.
That's correct. We are, as we're going throughout the city on a weekly basis, meeting obviously different types and different sizes of these illegal billboards. And you're correct, some of them do belong to what we believe are established companies, even though they are not declared. But some of them will see to be the trailers that you see alongside the road. So one can see that there is some investment in terms of the infrastructure that the people are using to perpetrate this illegal trading, this illegal advertising billboards.
Forgive me, Mr. Makunga, for a question that may sound rather ignorant, but what exactly is an illegal billboard? Is it the erection of a structure for which there's no planning permission? Is it, for example, using maybe a digital billboard from an electricity source that you're not paying for? Is it somebody who may even be I don't know, if, for example, somebody might own a billboard space saying, hey, hang on a minute, there's a billboard up there. I didn't put it up and I own that spot. I mean, I'm sure illegality takes a number of forms. Maybe you could share those different forms with us.
Now, I think you're correct, John. Look, if I can just give a broader definition, I think you touch on it. An illegal advertising billboard is any billboard that will be erected without any approval from council, which means there's no approval from development planning, or if it's on the COJ or public land, there's no approval and there's no lease with the city of Johannesburg. So it's really, we test it against the bylaws, the outdoor bylaws, which are currently effective, which really guide the city of Johannesburg in terms of the outdoor advertising space.
I've got something from one of our listeners that engages with our conversation, Mr. Makunga, but raises a different issue and says this: John, those electronic advertising boards are so dangerous. They blind drivers at night with their intense lights. Something must be done. Has that ever come up, that maybe the billboard itself, against all the other standards, is legal, but is there, for example, a limit on the intensity of light that a digital board can emit?
Correct. We've also come across, in terms of the digital billboards that are out there that are too bright, that it does really disrupt the drivers in terms of the vision. And again, all those issues are covered in the bylaws. So you can find a billboard that's structured that is quite legal, but in terms of the lighting and all the issues that go in there, obviously ours is limited spatially to the COJ land, but we've seen quite a number of those that indeed they are not complying with the standards in terms of lighting. But again, I think you touch on something. A lot of them also, what we've seen is that they illegally connect the electricity, which means they are not paying for the electricity or the source of electricity to ensure that billboard is lit up. So those are some of the issues that we are also looking at, which is also covered again in the bylaws, outdoor advertising bylaws of the city of Johannesburg.
I want to go back to something you said earlier in our conversation, Mr. Makunga, where you said put up without council approval. Firstly, I want to make sure I heard that correctly. But if the council has to approve these, I'm wondering if that may not be a source of the problem, because the council's got so much other business. Joburg politically hasn't been particularly stable, and that can't have helped. But surely approvals need to come not from an elected structure, but from an entity charged with actually handling this aspect of the city's business. It ought to be surely administrative and not legislative.
You're correct. When I refer to council, I mean, indeed, obviously, all the decisions in terms of what the entities, including the JPC where I'm at, are sanctioned by council. And you're correct, this is not a political decision.
Right.
It is driven by administrators. For instance, if you look from the issues of approvals, there's a department called Development Planning, which normally deals with our plans generally. If you put structures, even in your house, if you find yourself in the city of Johannesburg, that's an administrative function. So one will have to approach a department and do an application and follow the rules in terms of what the bylaws say. So even though, as you highlight, other instabilities, but administratively we are solid, and we are there as administrators to ensure that to implement the bylaws and also just to implement the policies of the city of Johannesburg. I think council just assist us in approving those policies and the bylaws, but ours is to ensure that we implement according to that.
So just a final thought, Mr. Makunga, because I'm just thinking, on the one hand, you've got a law and lawlessness issue that you're trying to address. On the other hand, I would have thought there is a potential revenue stream that could be very beneficial to a city that, by common cause is pretty strapped for cash. As you go about engaging with people who are doing things on Joburg land that they ought not to, I recognize there is a punitive element that does have to kick in because laws have been broken. But is there any part of the conversation that you could have, say, look, we're going to fine you X and Y, but hey, if you want to advertise in this spot, these are our rates. This is how you go about doing that. I mean, is there a silver lining to this particular cloud?
You're correct, John. Look, when we implement the policies, we follow a certain process. So one of the things that we are doing, we're actually driving around, walking around in the city when we see these structures mushroom, and through our department, planning department, we issue notices where we actually notify whoever is the owner of that structure or where the property is actually erected, and we tell them that this is illegal and you are given certain days so that you can actually engage. And you're correct. The whole point is to see how we can actually engage with the respectable owners or whoever the property owners, so that we can see if that does comply with the bylaws. So what is actually needed is for the person to come forward and engage, then you can test it against the bylaws, do an application, and then pay what is due to the city.
Right.
So the city is currently losing a lot of revenue that is actually not given to it in terms of the processes. You will see that if you look at the bylaws, for any application there is a charge that you actually have to pay for such for that application to move forward. But what people are doing, they're just doing a lot of lawlessness. You wake up, there's a billboard in the structure, and they've not engaged the city. And indeed, they're making revenue, and they're not sharing that revenue on COJ land for some of the people who are actually out there. So really, that's also an angle that we are driving as a city of Johannesburg, because there's a lot of revenue leaking, which can be used for service delivery throughout the city of Johannesburg.
Thank you. Musa Makunga is CEO of the Joburg Property Company. If this is something that's touched your life in some way, shape or form, you know where to get us. 072-7021-702.
The festive rush doesn't wait. Orders, deliveries, messages, calls. This summer, you'll need connectivity that doesn't tap out when the pressure is on. With Telkom Business, you get reliable, high-speed connectivity for just $2.99 per month. That's our unlimited LTE, all hours basic plan, 10 megabytes per second. No caps, no excuses.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that grow your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Enjoy the thrill of the Soccer Panthers Challenge, Weekend Edition, an all-new platform from Hollywood Bets. You stand a chance to win a share of the 5 million rand jackpot when you bet 5 rand or more on selected EPL matches over the weekend and correctly predict 10 out of 10 winning margins, or chase the share of the 50,000 rand leaderboard prize. Entry is free. Let this soccer season bring sizzling success. Bet now.
T's and C's apply.
Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Naked people always get dessert. Because naked people spend less money on insurance premiums, they've got more money for Mulva pudding. Or cheesecake. Or both. With Naked, you can cover your car, home, and stuff in seconds. And because it's all online, it also costs less. Go to naked.insure now, get a car insurance quote in 90 seconds, and start treating yourself like naked people. Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP. Get naked.
702 is in conversation with Capitec, discussing how South Africans can protect themselves against financial crime.
So firstly, let's look at the red flags that you need to watch out for. Prices significantly lower than similar listings. In the case of accommodation, no in-person viewing allowed. And typically excuses like I'm traveling or I've relocated or there are people in the accommodation at the moment, I can't take you there. Pressure tactics is a favorite. I have another 3 buyers ready to pay. You need to pay now. Or deposit required immediately into a personal bank account. That's very often also another big trigger and red flag. New or empty profile with little activity. And then these perfectly looking photos. Often they're stolen from real listings. And then for accommodation, often there's a refusal to do a live video walk through the property.
Slam the scam with Capitec. Capitec is an authorized financial services provider and registered credit provider.
This is EWN.
Teen murderer's bid for parole halted, and former RAF board member defends recommendation of Letswalo for CEO. Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Malapo. We begin with news just in. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald has ordered a review of a decision to grant the Griquastad convicted murderer on parole. The Griquastad murderer, as he's known, was convicted of killing 3 members of the Steenkamp family. Dion, Crystal and their daughter Martella were shot in their home in the Northern Cape in 2012. Nogukanyam Dambo has the details.
The Griquastad murderer cannot be named in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act because he was a minor at the time of the crime. In August 2014, the teen was sentenced to 20 years in prison for each of the 3 murder counts and for rape. At the end of last year, the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board in Uppington approved his parole placement with effect from March 2026 until the expiry of his sentence on 13 March 2034. Correctional Services spokesperson Singabako Ngumalo.
Following careful consideration of the matter, Minister Groenewald has resolved that the decision of the board be taken on a review process, which must be done in line with Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998.
The parole decision is suspended pending the outcome of the review by the Correctional Supervision and Parole Review Board, which is required to consider the full record of proceedings and either confirm or substitute the decision. Nogukanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
We move to the National Assembly, where the name of alleged Mozambican kidnapping kingpin Ishmael Nangi has featured prominently before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today. During testimony of KwaZulu-Natal Hawks boss Liseja Senona, the commission heard that Nangi, as well as Tender Don of Wusmusi Cat Matlala, live in the same luxury midstream estate in Centurion. Nangi has on 2 separate occasions been arrested in South Africa with links to high-profile kidnapping for ransom cases, but in at least one of the cases, the charges never stuck. Oren Singh has more.
As early as December 2024, EWN began looking into Ismail Nangi, an alleged Mozambican kidnapping kingpin who was previously arrested by Interpol in 2023 at his upmarket estate in Centurion. Then Nangi was arrested again in late 2024 for the kidnapping of KZN businessman Zachariah Desai. Charges against him and 3 others were then suddenly dropped in January last year. A month later, Nangi launched a civil claim against 8 individuals in reference to his arrest. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhunazi is listed as one of the accused in the matter. Nangi accused them of kidnapping, extortion and theft, among other charges. Probes into the Nangi case by EWN revealed that his arrest and subsequent civil case resulted in a major fallout between Mkhunazi and former Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibia. Aaron Singh, Eyewitness News.
In the National Assembly, former board members of the Road Accident Fund have defended their recommendation of former Chief Executive Officer Collins Letswalo, saying they believed him to have been the best man for the job when he was hired permanently in 2020. They've also told Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, which is investigating maladministration at the fund, that it was not their place to get involved in employee matters when questioned about testimony that Letswalo waged a reign of terror against employees. Witnesses who have testified before the committee have painted Letswalo as a hard and unfair boss, with trade union NUMSA yesterday labelling him a monster. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Former Deputy RAF Chairperson Nomonde Mabuya has explained to the committee that Collins Letswalo first came to the fund on secondment from the Department of Transport. She says the board carried out a proper recruitment process to fill the post of CEO, and Letswalo's years of financial experience in the department, coupled with his vast knowledge of the fund, put him a cut above other applicants.
I had no doubt that he would be the right person, and his depth and understanding of the RAF Act was the most outstanding thing in that interview.
Former board chairperson Zanele Francois agreed when asked by the DA's Patrick Atkinson about Letswalo's management style. She says the recruitment process included integrity assessments and psychometric testing.
So there was no indicators when he was appointed that we were going to experience any problems.
Letswalo has to date refused to appear before the inquiry, maintaining that it's acting outside of its powers by conducting this probe. The hearing continues. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Some political parties in Johannesburg say they are deeply troubled by the recent police raid at the Johannesburg Social Housing Company's offices. Law enforcement officers raided the municipal entity's headquarters in Braamfontein on Monday as part of an investigation into alleged procurement irregularities. On the same day, the entity's old acting CEO, Themba Matibe, was arrested at his home after he was allegedly found in possession of substantial sum of cash. He appeared in the Alexandra Magistrates Court on charges of money laundering today and was released on 50,000 rand bail. Alpha Ramushwana has more.
The EFF says it is not surprised by the arrest and allegations against Johannesburg Social Housing Company's acting CEO, Themba Matibe. The party says this is based on concerns raised when Matibe was appointed CEO of another city entity, the Johannesburg Development Agency, 2 years ago at the age of 27. During that appointment, there were allegations that recruitment processes had been breached. The DA has echoed similar sentiments, with its regional leader, Belinda Kaiser Etiozonjoku, describing the matter as deeply concerning.
Today's news shows why these warnings were crucial. Senior positions are being filled without merit, without transparency, and without proper oversight. This resulting in the entire system collapsing under a burden of mistrust, inefficiency, and intervention by law enforcement.
Matibe was arrested by the Special Task Force, which is an elite and specialized police unit. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
And Rand Water says the explosion of one of its motors at the Zekerbosch water treatment plant has left some of its systems in the south of Gauteng with low water pressure and outages. Following the explosion yesterday, the utility says an entire engine room was shut down, but pumping has since been partially resumed. The system lost 1,800 megalitres of water per day, and so far 1,400 has been recovered. Rand Water spokesperson Makinosi Maru.
The technical teams are working tirelessly to recover the balance. The disruption is expected to affect reservoirs within the Palmit, Aikenhof and Mapleton systems, and some areas may experience low water pressure or temporary water outages.
Gold's trading at $5,295.38 an ounce. The rand's at 15.90 to the dollar, at 21.93 to the pound, at 19.02 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $68.18 a barrel.
Well, at this stage in Bryanston, there's a bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive in Dobsonville. Looks like there's an accident scene. This is near Tepotemba on on Elias Mutswaledi, and this is causing about a 30-minute delay between Main Road and Tepotemba.
In your sport, Kaizer Chiefs look to keep up with the Betway Premiership's pace setters. Pep Guardiola blames Manchester City teammates for Erling Haaland's goal drought, and Tyson Fury confirms his April comeback fight.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with scattered afternoon thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 19 degrees and peak at highs of 28. Pretoria slightly higher at 20 degrees, maxing out at 30. Vereeniging will drop to 17 and reach highs of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald has ordered a review of a decision to grant the Griquastad convicted murderer on parole.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 10 minutes past 5. Good to have you with us for the last hour of the show. Money Show, of course, coming up between 6 and 8. We'll hear from Stephen Critter, some of what he has lined up for those 2 hours on 7:02. So lots of great radio ahead on the station. Anything you might have missed, by the way, earlier in the day, earlier in the week, or indeed earlier in the year, go to primemediaplus.com. We have podcasts of many, many interesting interviews. One I'd recommend from yesterday, my conversation with digital law expert Emma Sadlier, talking about a very, very interesting court case in the United States, indeed, where a large number of parents on behalf of the young people in their lives are suing various companies like YouTube, Facebook, and others. TikTok, I think, is in the mix as well, for what they say is the deliberate intention to make their products as addictive as possible for young people with lots of mental and social consequences. So I just picked that out as a random example. Good stuff throughout the day. If you hear about an interview and you didn't hear the interview, primemediaplus.com is the place where you need to go. Coming up on the show in the next half an hour, we're going to be chatting to our EWN colleague Oren Singh, who has been covering an intriguing, but I have to say from bits I watched, at times very strange day at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, where you have a police officer, a senior officer, who, according to the CV he shares, has risen through the ranks with his stellar powers and ability to join the dots and draw conclusions from partial facts, but appears to be stuck with a temporary suspension of that ability when it came to some crucial matters around his association with people like Vusimuzi Matlala. More of that in a moment with Oren Singh, as I said. And then tourism. The tourism numbers in South Africa, I must admit, I've been thinking for a while, they're growing and they are healthy, but we're not up to pre-COVID levels. There are various issues around where the tourists are coming from and how long they're staying and what they're spending. There's concerns we're lagging behind countries like Morocco and Kenya in terms of the way they have surged way past the numbers they were putting up in 2019, again, the reference point pre-COVID. And then there are concerns as well about instability at SA Tourism. That story coming up a little bit later. We'll chat to David Frost, CEO of Southern Africa Tourism Services Association. Looking forward to that. 13 minutes past 5.
702. WhatsApp John
On 072
702
1702.
Furthermore, hi John. He's talking about revenue. People aren't sharing with the city. The city's losing a lot of revenue. How ridiculous is that? And I think that's the main purpose of this drive that they're undertaking. It's not because of the hazards of the billboards. It's because they want to squeeze money out of people for the sake of corruption. I'm so disgusted. And I knew that there was more to the story, apart from, these billboards being hazards. Oh, cry out, beloved country.
Hi, Brother John. Does the council need to approve a billboard that is positioned in my yard, inside my yard, or on my wall? Please confirm.
Afternoon, John. Hope you guys are well. Years ago, when I was still in primary school, our school had other schools coming from different countries for sports, netball and rugby and all of that. And I will never forget We had about 6 girls staying over at my mom's house, and they were totally flabbergasted that we had helpers in our homes and gardeners. Apparently in England, they don't have that.
Yeah, so quite a bit for me to respond to. I mean, I'm not sure about the levels of astonishment in the first voice note saying, oh, this is only about money. I mean, I thought that Mr. Makunga was absolutely clear about that, and I've no idea why it should be such an outlandish idea that if there is an asset on land that belongs to the city and there's revenue and fees to be paid for using that asset in one way, shape or form, that the city should set about going and claiming it. Nobody said, and certainly my guest, Mr. Makunga, at no point said this was purely because this is a hazard and then there's some sneaky way of getting money out of people. Yes, your point is valid that money raised for the city and indeed for a large number, some would say the majority, of government entities gets lost and misused for either inept or corrupt purposes or both. But that doesn't mean you can then say that a city that is entitled to collect revenue should not do so. I mean, I can't believe you would take that argument and then sustain it as an excuse for people who don't pay for their electricity and water. What would be the difference here if there is a charge that is a common cause and well known by everybody, and that money hasn't been collected because people are either tapping into the electricity source illegally and bypassing it, or because they're putting up a billboard on land that doesn't belong to them? Well, I'm all for it being collected. The question of whether it gets put to the right use is a battle ongoing, and a battle we fight regularly right here on 702. 16 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
Right, let's get the very latest news from the roads. EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now. And you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, Dobsonville is proving to be a little bit of a problem if that's where you're going.
Yeah, pretty hectic in the area of Dobsonville. Soweto, that's you can expect about a 30-minute delay on Elias Mutwaledi between Koma Road and Tsepotemba Hospital due to an earlier accident. Bryanston, traffic pressure N1 South from Rivonia Road to Winnie Mandela Drive. Also traveling through Melrose, Santon, heading towards Midrand. Traffic is heavily backed up on the M1 northbound between Killarney Bains and the Batlu interchange. In Alexandra, expect about a 30-minute delay. That's heading towards Germiston. N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren, and in Benoni, traffic remains heavily backed up on Atlas Road between Main Reef Road and the N12. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen can't help you survive the parent group chat, but they can ease the traffic congestion. So you make the school run in time and give yourself a parenting award. With the Outsurance pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely in the new year. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using #PointsmenLove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Major General Lisicha Sinona is the KZN head of the Hawks. As you can imagine, it is a very senior and sensitive position in the police. Indeed, the Hawks deal with very, very serious crime. To get to the top of the ranks in one of the most populous and troubled provinces in the country would require you, I'd have thought, to have in some way excelled in your role as a police officer. But today and yesterday, appearing before the Madlanga Commission, many questions have been asked of Major General Sinona that have raised questions about his perception of what the ethical responsibilities of a police officer are. And indeed, the the constitutional responsibilities that ought to frame those. Just one of the angles that for me was significant, but let's speak to somebody who's been watching this more closely than me. Oren Singh, a very good afternoon to you. I do want to start with what's on my mind briefly, if you don't mind. I mean, I can't count the number of times the commissioners and the advocate leading evidence said to the Major General, do you think that was correct for you as a police officer, senior police officer, to be organizing a meeting with another senior police officer around the commercial contracts and difficulties in enforcing those contracts of somebody who is well known to be the subject of investigation by the police? And he just kept saying, no, he doesn't see any problem with that. I'm trying to work out what the problem is. First of all, does he really believe that, which is one kind of problem? Or does he know that it's wrong, but he won't admit it, which is a different kind of problem? It's a case, I suppose, of pick your poison, Oren Singh. But, I mean, what conclusion did you draw? Because some of it to me was absolutely implausible, but nonetheless incredible.
I think part of the problem in reference to that meeting at this plush apartment that he alleges belongs to Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, between Kat Matlala and Mkhwanazi, was that he was pouring himself a lot of whiskies, as he would say to the commission, John, and so it makes him difficult for him to recollect what took part in that meeting. But I think he had very selective hearing.
Yes.
He recalls that there was a deal or proposal put on the table by Mkhwanazi to offer up information on Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, and if he does that, we'll put a hold on that case that we're investigating you for, Kat Matlala. And I think that's a little bit concerning if you're an Mkhwanazi fan or in Mkhwanazi's camp, because essentially this is an alleged meeting that takes place by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and Kat Matlala in April last year. Yet, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has July 6th briefing, doesn't make mention of it.
Yes.
Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi appears before the Madlanga Commission, doesn't make mention of it. Appears before ad hoc committee and doesn't make mention of it. And for someone that had these allegations and put them out to the public to create this perception that the criminal justice system in Gauteng has been captured, yet you've met with one of the main people you've been investigating as a political killings task team who fall within your province, don't necessarily report to you, but reports to one of your close allies, Dumisani Kumalo, the head of crime intelligence. Surely you should have said something. And, you know, I think one of the main contentions, aside from the fact that Major General Lesetja Senona was running away from admitting that he was at fault for not only knowing Kat Matlala,
right,
but doing certain things and saying certain things in message exchanges with him that he doesn't consider to be wrong as a senior official, which anyone, I think, that had any sort of ethical ounce to them or within them would say that this is not right. I should stop the buck here, and it stops with me. But he didn't do that. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, a lot has come out from his testimony. He's not done. We're going to hear more from him tomorrow. But towards the end, the last 2 minutes of today, he kind of looked at the commissioners and said, I'm being crucified here. And I think the commissioners took issue with that, because they're in no way trying to crucify him. I think he's done that to himself, because he's laid out all these facts that he alleges are facts and presented it to the commission. But when questioned whether he thought that was right or wrong, he couldn't answer it.
Just a last one, Oren, by the way. I mean, after all those whiskies that he described, nobody asked him, that I heard, did you actually drive there yourself, and did you drive yourself away? Because the number of times he said, well, I was up getting a drink when things were discussed, that would suggest quite a few singles or doubles. But on a more significant note, I seem to see that there was one instance where he passed documents over to Kat Matlala, offering as a defense this was in the public domain, but actually these documents had potentially perilous information about police officers, their ID numbers and their addresses in there, which wouldn't have been in the public domain. Did I hear that right? And if I did, what was his defense?
Correct, John. This is a High Court civil case that was launched against a man that's been labeled as the Mozambican kidnapping kingpin in South Africa,
Right.
Ismail Nangi, that launched a counter claim against Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and several other police officers. And without going through the contents of the document, being someone with top secret security clearance, Major General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi forwards this document, which has the ID numbers of these cops and personal information pertaining to them, to Vusi Muzi Katmatlala. But I think more important than that, John, is the fact that Lesetja Sinona on several occasions did not concede to the fact that he was in a very cordial relationship, brotherly bond with Vusi Muzi Katmatlala, even sending him articles that pertain to Katmatlala being investigated by the SIU and the Hawks, your very same unit that you are the head of in KZN, and yet you find there's no problem with you being befriending Katmatlala and still continuing this relationship with him going forward. He didn't see that as a problem. And I think for the head of a Hawks in a province to not see that being an issue, it raises a lot more questions around who he surrounds himself with and what's going to happen to him going forward.
Speaking of a lot more questions, there will be a lot more questions tomorrow. Thank you, Oren Singh, EWN reporter, 5:25.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Quite a bit happening in South African tourism. There are concerns from the various structures that are involved in driving this key sector in South Africa about the state of things at SA Tourism. The board, you might recall, was dissolved by the minister responsible for this portfolio, Minister Patricia de Lille. And the latest tourism figures suggest that whereas some of our African counterparts are actually surging past the numbers they put up before COVID descended, we are not achieving that, and we're not coming as nearly as close as we should. So what's up and what's going wrong? David Frost is CEO of the Southern Africa Tourism Services Association. Mr. Frost, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. First of all, the instability, as you believe there is at SA Tourism, characterized by the resignation now of the Chief Operating Officer, Daryl Erasmus. How significant a problem is that in your view? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Always good to be with you. And yeah, quite a succinct summation that you introduced it, the issue with. So, yeah, I mean, often when I'm asked to comment on this, the minister chides me for saying I'm entitled to my opinion, but not the facts. So let's deal with the facts. And the facts are quite simple, is that you have a CEO who has been suspended. You have a COO who's just resigned. And in fact, in the same couple of days, the Chief Marketing Officer resigned as well. There's a newly appointed CFO. So you have an organization, and then to boot, John, it's our view that the previous board that was dissolved in July was the most competent and tourism expertise laden board that SAT's ever had. That was dismissed. There's an interim board, and the facts are, when you go and look at those people's resumes, there is a glaring lack of international tourism marketing experience, which is the core function of South African tourism. So those are the facts. That's where we are. But it makes it very awkward and difficult for us as the private sector to transact and to try and progress a structured engagement with our colleagues at SAT. And there's some really good people in that organization, particularly in offices abroad. But we work through the executive at the top. And what we had was a willing COO to work with us in Daryl Erasmus, and a board that knew about tourism, that were on side, and we crafted a really useful structured engagement framework. But the question is, from our side now, we have nobody to interact or to talk with, and a lot of the momentum that we've built up just gets lost. And as a result, from a private sector point of view, we need to take matters into our own hand, control what we can control. So, we need to move on, and we have withheld the tourism levy that's collected that is normally passed on to SAT because of their qualified audit. And as a private sector, we're actually well structured, have set up some very, very useful committees, and we're going to go and spend that money productively, plugging gaps and looking at tactical initiatives that will grow tourism to our country.
Thank you so much, David Frost, CEO of the Southern Africa Tourism Services Association. By the way, I did mention that the tourism numbers are not as they should be. A very interesting and detailed analysis of that on the Money Show last night with Chifiwa Chivengwa, who is the head of the Tourism Business Council. Go to primemediaplus.com. I thought the analysis was really interesting, breaking down not just totals, but who's coming from where and staying how long. So if it's a sector you're interested in, check that out.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. Well, another day of record-breaking gold prices. At the same time, the dollar weakening against our currency and other currencies. That's why the gold price is so high, by the way. People are sort of curious about what's going to happen at the U.S. Federal Reserve tonight. The JSE All Share up 1.34%, 125,069 points. Financials down 0.69, industrials down 0.55. Resources up nearly 5% on the day, John, and you can understand why with the gold price at $5,300 an ounce earlier, getting back towards there now, by the way. Harmony up up over 9%, Goldfields up over 8%, Anglo Gold up 6.42%. One or two of the platinum miners strong as well. Northam's up by over 6%. Platinum not really strong itself, but I think people are expecting that sort of rally will resume for platinum. Truworths up 3.76%. Mr. Price reporting today that their retail sales in the third quarter of last year were up by 3.6%. compared to just 1.6% for the market as a whole. Over 90% of that, by the way, is cash sales. SAPI down by over 7%, and We Buy Cars down nearly 3%, while Telkom and Vodacom and MTN are all down. Telkom by 2%, Vodacom nearly 2%, MTN down 1.78% on the day. Richmond down 1.89% as well. In the US, so a record high once again for the Nasdaq went past for the S&P 500. Did go past 7,000 at the open, slipped back a little bit below that now, but it's still up 0.12% on the day. The Nasdaq is up 0.4%, the Dow Jones is down 0.16%. The main reason, by the way, John, is big tech earnings coming through later today, and then the US Federal Reserve decision as well, and that's really driving US markets. The gold price, $5,294.81, so edging back towards that 5,300 level. Platinum, $2,665.43. Brent crude, $67.11. The rand to the dollar now, 15.97 to the euro, 19.06 to the British pound, 21.96. On the Money Show tonight, we've seen all of the Chinese and Indian manufactured cars on our roads. The first rumblings from government of new tariffs on those cars. We'll hear from Ayabonga Tkawe, the Commissioner at the International Trade Administration Commission, about that. We'll hear from the car organization NAMCA. We will also be speaking about the huge amount of coal, and I do mean huge, that went through the Richards Bay coal terminal, and the guy who started an internet service provider. Do you remember those? You would hear the sort of Telkom dial-up, had a strange ring to it.
Yes.
There was a handshake, I think it was called, somewhere along the line, the telephones talking to each other. We'll speak to someone who started an ISP when he was still at school. I mean, astonishing. Still at school.
Yes.
Stephen Critters, EWN Business.
An interesting tale there, I'm sure. The Money Show's 6 to 8. 27 minutes now to 6. Marky Mulapo back with the latest.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The budget and personnel costs of the Political Killings Task Team have again come under scrutiny at the public hearings before the Police Ad Hoc Committee. Civil society organizations making submissions have also questioned the true success of the PKTT and whether its disbandment by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu was indeed justified. The Ad Hoc Committee investigating allegations of police corruption is receiving further submissions today as it prepares to conclude its hearings. Babalo Ndenza reports.
The Ad Hoc Committee heard submissions yesterday by the Institute for Security Studies, which stated that Senzo Mchunu's directive may have been questionable, but it was not illegal according to current legislation. Dr. Jean Redpath from the Dalla-Oma Institute today continued submissions on the PKTT. She says the costs of the PKTT are exorbitant compared to agencies like the Investigating Directive Against Corruption.
Even the first 6 months of the additional expenditure on the PKTT of 50 million is significant when you consider how comparatively little is allocated to the IDAC.
But committee members Bonero Nomvalo accuse Redpath of trying to paint a negative picture about the PKTT's success by conflating statistics with other provincial killings.
You have wrongfully criticized the PKTT here by inserting wrong numbers, which are outside the scope of the PKTT.
But Redpath maintains that the PKTT should ideally have had a broader impact on society. Baba Londenza, Eyewitness News.
The Global Creative Summit has called on investors to pump resources into the sector to help create opportunities for musicians, filmmakers and designers. The call comes as the creative economy gains traction across the world. The Global Creative Summit launched its inaugural gathering in November with expectations that African talent will continue to take the center stage this year. The second edition will be hosted in New Orleans in the U.S. later this year, with talks already underway. Founder Sinamandla Kwepile says the GCS is strategically designed to align with the G20's development agenda, mirroring its rotational legacy to ensure the creative sector is never left out of the global economic conversation. Kwepile says it's about turning creativity into real economic opportunities through skills development, market access and regional collaboration.
So we call on investors to basically assist us with putting up these creative hubs where artists have access to internet access, to information around policies, looking at what AI is doing right now. So if we don't create our own AI policies and as Africans, then the AI will take over the business for the creative sector.
And the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal's provincial legislature has echoed a call by Zulu King Misuzulu Kazolithini for the province to be renamed KwaZulu. The king made the call while addressing the annual commemoration of the Battle of Isandlwane in Ngutu last week. The IFP says it has been advocating for a renaming of the province for years. Party National Chairperson Blessed Gwala.
The IFP consistently and firmly advocated for the recognition of KwaZulu in the acknowledgement of the Zulu kingdom and its profound historical, cultural and political significance. The current name remains a compromise that failed to fully reflect this reality.
Gwala says the renaming will address the distortion of history.
We further believe that His Majesty's call opens the door to addressing other long-standing historical distortions.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with scattered afternoon thunder showers expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 17 and 20 degrees and peak at highs between 27 and 30 degrees.
We still have about a 30-minute delay in Dobsonville on Elias Mtoledi between Goma Road and Tsepotemba Hospital due to an earlier accident. In Bryanston, traffic pressure N1 South between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. And in Kempton Park, bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Morafontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier.
The top story in Eyewitness News. The budget and personnel costs of the Political Killings Task Team have again come under scrutiny at the public hearings before the Police Ad Hoc Committee.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
There are conversations that we don't allow us to have for the good of our own country because we are stuck in this tribe mentality, in this binary logic that doesn't want to be honest about some of the conversations that we need to have. The whole thing about the murders in the farms is a conversation that we haven't had properly in this country. We throw certain accusations, but we don't ask the critical questions. Who is doing the killing? Who exactly is killing our farmers?
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Get your brain in the game because the brain of 702 is back with your chance to flex your general knowledge smarts. There's 3,000 Rand up for grabs every day, and Brain of the Week wins 10,000 Rand plus a spot in the finals to compete for the grand prize, 30,000 Rand cash. Enter on primemediaplus.com now, then catch 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa and 702 Drive with me, John Perlman, for your chance to be the brain of 702. T's, C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
Running a business can feel like a solo mission.
I mean, you've got the hustle. If only your office Wi-Fi was your employee of the month. Turn on your success with Telkom Business, the partner that always shows up. Get a reliable 25 by 25 megabytes per second connection with Stream Connect Fiber for only 489 rands per month.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that connect your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
At Dis-Chem, get ready to start the year strong with better health and better rewards. Enjoy 20% off the lifestyle food range, plus an extra 10% off when you swipe your Better Rewards card. And get 2+1 cheapest free on any Future Life foods. Look out for the Better Rewards icon to get an extra 10% off on Better Rewards brands. Offers valid from Tuesday 13 January to Sunday 15 February. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Approved bylaws in terms of outdoor advertising prohibits any erection of a sign without prior written approval from the City of Johannesburg, which is normally done through the Department of Development Planning. So before you actually erect any sign, whether in private or public land, you must actually get an approval from the department. But also I wanted to specifically deal with the issues around the properties that are zoned residential one. Properties that are zoned residential prohibits erection of signs without prior written approval from the City of Johannesburg. So in a nutshell, if you don't have a approval from the city's Department of Planning, that sign will be illegal. That is why we actually urge everyone to actually come forward to the city, put their applications so the city officials can actually assess that against the approved bylaws, and only when we actually have obtained an approval, a written approval, then you can erect a sign in your property. And this applies again, emphasis on private owned properties as well as public owned properties. Thank you.
Yeah, so just context for that, we had a question a little bit earlier about whether the crackdown on the erection of billboards also had implications for people who had billboards put up in their own property. That was the guest we had on earlier, Musa Makunga, who is CEO of the Joburg Property Company. So I hope his explanation offers some clarity on that question. 18 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Kaizer Chiefs in action tonight. Tola Kele, good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And the Betway Premiership title race will take center stage this evening as Chiefs take on Marumo Gallants. A win for the Glamour Boys would move them 2 points behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns, and Aidan McCarthy is looking to keep his goal-scoring run going, having netted against Golden Arrows.
Scoring my first goal for the club in a league game, it was definitely one to remember. I found out that my father and I made history scoring against the same team, as our first goals for Kaizer Chiefs. It's definitely one for the history books, and I'm looking forward to scoring many more.
18 games are scheduled in the UEFA Champions League tonight as the pool stage comes to an end. Arsenal take on Kiryat Al-Matai, Chelsea are away to Napoli, while Liverpool clash with Karabag. Arne Slot admits that the Reds must improve their play at both ends of the pitch if they want to put a stop to recent criticism.
No, I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league. So even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did. Not started, but at a certain moment with so many losses. So it's impossible to shut down the noise at a club like this if you are not competing for the league.
Pep Guardiola has told his Manchester City players they must step up to help Erling Haaland end his goal drought. That's ahead of their clash against Galatasaray. The Norwegian last scored against Brighton from the penalty spot in early January, but has not found the net from open play since before Christmas.
Yeah, more chances. They will score. Never underestimate the strikers, the goal scorers, because always they will make you silent. So we want to score first of his life, that's for sure. I'm not good in that. I'm overthinking manager, not man management. The new generation manager just the videos. We are not man manager. We don't talk. I don't talk with the players since the last 3 years, so I don't talk with them. Less problems.
Reigning champion Yannick Sinner has called Novak Djokovic an inspiration ahead of the Australian Open semi-final. The Italian brushed past Ben Shelton in straight sets to set up a showdown against the 24-time Grand Slam winner, and he's only dropped one set as he moved into the last four.
Every time he plays, I can learn something about him, about Carlos, about all the other great players, and I take this as a positive, I think the way he's playing, the way he's moving, if you are not professional, you don't play at this level. So he's an inspiration for all of us, and especially the young players.
And former heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury will face Aslanbek Makhmudov in his comeback fight in April. That's weeks after saying he'd come out of retirement. The bout will take place in the UK on the 11th, but no venue has been announced and will be broadcast on Netflix. Fury quit boxing in January last year after suffering a second straight defeat to Alexander Usyk. Thalagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 5:45, EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's driving through Alex, heading towards Germiston on the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Van Buren. Also coming from Edenvale, there's slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's interchange. In Bryanston, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive, and in Kempton Park heading towards Kloorkoop, rather in Midrand heading towards Kloorkoop. There's slow-moving traffic on Allendale Road between Old Pretoria Road and Zeerfontein Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a lady who's made a resolution to love herself more and put herself first this year. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a new chapter on the move. Happy New Year to every story on the road. You're the reason the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. Now, earlier today on the station, Bongani Bingwa was just acknowledging the birthday of Kenan Jared Forbes, a.k.a. tragically gunned down in February of 2023, but born on this day in 1988. Played some of his music and spoke about him, and you may have heard that. If not, primemediaplus.com is where you can have a listen back to that. On a similar theme, we're going to ask you this question. Musicians who died way too young, and we're going to focus on those who died before they actually reached 30. Now, within that group of musicians, and there are a lot of them, and some really stellar names from the world of music, there's something that's become known as the 27 Club. I'm not too crazy about that title, but real giants who died at that age of 27. Amongst them, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Ian Curtis, who was singer in a band called Joy Division, who I thought were great. Brian Jones, who founded the Rolling Stones. Kurt Cobain is another one who comes to mind. And while we enjoy some music from one of the most recent, in fact, the most recent member of this particular group in terms of how recently she died, Amy Winehouse. Take a listen, and maybe you want to just share with us favorite musicians and their songs of great stars who died way, way too soon. Here is Amy Winehouse. This one is called Back to Black. Amy Winehouse, the title track from her second and final studio album released in 2006. She passed away 5 years later. The song called Back to Black. So you may have some songs or favorite musicians much loved who died before they reached the age of 30. That's our music theme for today. We've got some requests and suggestions. Send it to 072 702 1702.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
I want to speak about Justice Madlanga.
The kind of contradictions that he portrays, but at the same time holding his ground very firm. Yesterday, when he told the Hawks boss in KZN that you may be complaining that you are being treated unfairly, but at the same time it could be our instruction as the committee. He is the person who should have been named by his parent, KJ Stegisa, the one who saved you while laughing and massaging you at the same time. I like his firmness. One moment you think you are friends, the next moment he has a stern face facing you.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
Is your skin itchy, flaky, red or discolored? You may have a fungal skin infection. Turbane treats a variety of fungal skin infections like skin thrush, a red and itchy rash with small pimples, usually in damp skin areas, ringworm, a ring-shaped, sometimes itchy rash, athlete's foot, itchy red discolored or peeling skin on your feet or toes, and jock itch. Turbane kills skin fungus, and you only need to use the cream once or twice daily for 1 week compared to other 4-week treatments. Ask your pharmacist about Turbane cream and say goodbye to fungal skin infections.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5. It's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, Papa John. So Aliyah, and the song would be I Miss You, and Left Eye from TLC. The TLC song would be No Scrubs. So yeah, those were my 90s faves and all gone.
Afternoon, John. I think one of those artists is Aliyah. Aliyah died way too young and too soon. And any song by Aliyah will do.
No, 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 no. It's been too long and I'm lost without you. What am I gonna do? Said I've been needing you. Said I'm needing you. Who's been with you? Is your heart still mine? I wanna cry sometime. I miss you. Off to college. Yes, you went away. Straight from high school, you up and left me. We were close friends, also lovers. Did everything for one another. Now you're gone and I'm lost without you.
Sounds of Aliyah, yeah, people say passed away too soon indeed. 22 years of age, but obviously her songs continuing to echo for many people. That one called Miss You.
Hi, John. My artist would definitely be Tupac Shakur. Yeah, I think he died when he was 26. And so you can play Dear Mama for me, man. Dear Mama. Tupac Shakur. Shivers in Boxburg.
You all appreciate it. When I was young, me and my mama had beef, 17 years old, kicked out on the streets. Though back at the time, I never thought I'd see her face. Ain't a woman alive that could take my mama's place. Suspended from school, I'm scared to go home. I was a fool with the big boys, breaking all the rules. Shed tears with my baby sister. Over the years, we was poor than other little kids. And even though we had different daddies, the same drama when things went wrong, we blame mama. I reminisce on the stress I caused. It was hell, hugging on my mama from a jail cell. And who thinking elementary? Hey, I see the penitentiary one day. Running from the police, that's right. Mama catch me, put a whooping to my backside. You always was a black queen, mama. I finally understand, for a woman it ain't easy trying to raise a man. You always was committed, a poor single mother on welfare. Tell me how you did it, there's no way I can pay you back. But the plan is to show you that I understand. You all appreciate it. Don't you know we love you, sweet dear mama.
Tupac, 1996, dead at the age of 25. We're going far back with this one. Let's take a listen.
Hi, John. Morna here in one. A song that I enjoy of someone who also died very early is These Arms of Mine from Otis Redding. Late 60s. Used to play in the car when we were children. So yes, also gone too early.
Morne, thanks. Otis Redding, killed in a plane crash in 1967. He was just 26. We couldn't dig out that particular song, but you won't mind hearing this Otis Redding classic, I'm sure.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay.
Otis Redding, and I think you know the whistling at the end was something he just put in as a placeholder that he was going to put lyrics to. People who know the song will know exactly what I'm talking about, and died before he could actually finish the work. So very, very poignant indeed. Andrew goes to Jimi Hendrix, dead at 27, and picks the song Little Wing. Tejos says, the theme is musicians gone too soon. I saw Costa Titch. My favorite song by him was called Flexa.
Hi, John. For me, I would go for Lyndon David Hall. There's so many songs I like from him, so many albums, but for this part, I'll go for Sexy Cinderella.
Came along at just the right time. I get a cool sensation with you. Sexy Cinderella. It's almost midnight, and I've been dying to kiss you.
Lyndon David Hall there. Welcome, says Avicii. Wake me up. Yeah, another very sad and early death of a really, really wonderful musician. Thanks so much for joining us on Afternoon Drive right here on 702. The Money Show is next. I'm John Perlman. Me and the team have a great Wednesday. Good night.
I've got nothing that I want to hide.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, a Pan-African bank that's invested in your story because your story matters. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, government starts to investigate new tariffs against cheaper Chinese and Indian cars. Africa finally gets its own ratings agency, which is supposed to promote transparency. Transnet and the Richards Bay coal terminal stage a strong recovery. New numbers show you should get just a little bit richer this year. And your shapeshifter tonight, Werner Stuckey, the man who started his first